Welcome back to Memes and Markets. Keith, how are you, man?
Today's the best day of my life, Ben. How you living?
Today's fantastic. We got an awesome guest that you've talked a lot about, a lot of great things. So I'll throw it back to you, Keith, so you can intro this legend and we can get into it.
Herwig, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining us.
I am especially having a great day today, Keith. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I'll do a brief intro to who you are and the things that you've been working on, and then correct me on anything if I misspeak. But Herwig here, someone that I met, what was it, like 2019, 2020, I think it was. And you were already very early in working on the security token space at that time. So we'll talk a little bit more about the origins of all of that. But the founder of the security token group, been in blockchain since at least 2017, working in the space. You've advised dozens of projects, including even some of the largest banks and asset managers that are foraying their way into this space. You founded the Real World Asset Foundation in 2024 to organize the industry's fragmented service providers, and even launched Wally DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, as its community arm. So also running Tokenized This NYC, which I believe is coming up not too long from now. So we will chat about that as well. But Herwig, I'd love to go back to the beginnings of you coming into blockchain, because right now, tokenization and real world assets is talk of the town. Everybody's talking about this. It's in the headlines everywhere now. But you were doing this well before anybody was talking about it. So can you bring us to when did you find blockchain? Why did you think it mattered? And then how did you decide to go into security tokens in particular?
Yeah, it's a great question. I often call it the aligning of the stars for what happened to me. But I will say just a slight correction that we have not yet launched the Wally DAO, but we'll talk about it. Gotcha. We have announced our plans for it. The white paper is out, as they say, in the crypto world, but it is not yet live. So nobody get fooled by any fake tokens or any kind of scammers out there. You just have to follow the project until we announce when it's actually live. But to go to your question, Keith, it actually started, I guess, as early as 2013. I actually am a Belgian immigrant to the United States, grew up kind of falling in love with the American dream, worked for tech pretty early on. By the time I got to college, I was part of this program called the Launchpad. This is at the University of Miami, so go Canes. One of the best decisions I ever made was because this program was one of the first of its kind, designed to do career services for entrepreneurs, right? Not just folks looking to get interview tips and how to get placement, but how do you do the interviews? How do you start a business? All that stuff. So I had the fortune of working with dozens, actually probably close to over 100 different entrepreneurs, both students and alumni from the program, which makes you get the itch to want to be an entrepreneur yourself naturally, seeing all that and all the different success and failure. But also, it also exposed me to one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs have, which is raising money. And at the end of the day, one of the biggest changes that ever happened to raising money for entrepreneurs was this law called the Jobs Act, which was passed in 2012. And some components of it were codified and made into law in 2013. And that's what set my journey off, if you will, because I saw this law get passed to enable what they called equity crowdfunding. Essentially, the ability for entrepreneurs to not have to rely on angel investors, on venture capitalists. It's actually illegal, for most people who don't know, for entrepreneurs to just go to the world and say, hey, invest in my private company. They now can, thanks to equity crowdfunding, and they made some rules. The SEC, of course, as a regulator, came up with rules, and I realized that you had to verify investors in order to qualify. And the reason I understood this law and why I guess I even was looking at it was because I started a crowdfunding platform for entrepreneurs at the university, or at least that was my plan, so that alumni or even other investors could back student projects or even research or otherwise, right? So it was actually the precursor to blockchain, but really the equity crowdfunding industry is where I got started. And I ended up building a compliance company focused on investor verification. Essentially, I had to become a lawyer without going to law school. I had to know the law, I had to know the rules. I was 19 when I started it. And so, obviously, to get taken seriously, you got to know your stuff. So I had to become an expert on sort of these private capital markets regulations, how money is being raised by entrepreneurs and how it's evolving with the internet, right? And with new technologies. And that put me into a place where around 2017, people started to knock on my door. And I actually was exposed to Bitcoin a little bit during college, but I didn't buy anything. I'm not a Bitcoin millionaire. But I got interested again in 2015 when these altcoins, when these new tokens of similar application or a new application came out, right? Thanks to Ethereum. And then, by 2016, by 2017, thanks to my background with Invest Ready is the name of that compliance company that I started. Essentially, it was very easy for me, as I said, for the stars to align. Back in 2016, even I was already rooting around, but started to do my first advisory gig, if you will, in 2017, where I had the opportunity to finally convince somebody to forget about these ICOs, forget about this crazy crypto thing that everyone's talking about, and try to look it over here, where instead of taking digital assets, right, we can put real assets behind the token. Let's do it by raising money for your private company via a token, not as a crypto token, but as a regulated investment token. Hence your term that you mentioned, Keith, security tokens. That was what we called tokenization back then, security tokens. So hopefully that answers your question well.
Yes, super cool. And like, so the thing that I took away from when I met you guys in 2020, going through the concept of tokenization, but what really was important for me to understand at the time that changed my entire paradigm was understanding the regulations around raising money, right? So I do want to dig into that a little bit because I think there's a big education piece around all of that. And the other company that you founded was perfectly right. Um, also tells us a lot about where we're at on the technology stack as well.
Mhm.
So to fully lay it out for people, as an entrepreneur, you might want to raise money for your business. And when you're doing that, uh, you have to follow certain rules, right? At least now there are rules that you can be able to raise money from the public in a way where basically you register what you're doing with the SEC. You say, hey, I'm noticing, I'm letting you know that this is what I'm doing. I'm raising money for my company. And because of that, I don't have to fully register. I don't have to like uh, go through the process of creating a broker dealer or go through the process of creating an investment advisor just to be able to raise money to fund my company from the public. So there's different ways in which you can do it. There's like Reg D, Reg A, Reg S, all of these different ways in which you can do it. Uh, the Reg S is like you can raise from international investors or something like that. And then Reg A allows you to raise a larger amount of money, but you have to do more verification. I kind of forget exactly what all of them are, but essentially, your company came in and said, so there's certain regulations where, for instance, you need to verify that the people that are investing in your company are accredited investors, right? So what your company did was you guys said, okay, well, we'll create the platform that makes it to where when someone needs to figure out if someone is an accredited investor or not, they come to your platform, the issuer does, the person who's raising the money, comes to your platform and says, I need a technology solution that makes this easier for me because I'm not spending all day verifying people's identities or anything of that nature. So that's what you guys built out when you saw that these regulations were coming in and that this was going to allow a whole new world, a whole new industry of raising money. Can you talk a little bit about that industry as well? Because some people like yourself were looking at the next version of that, which was tokenization. But there's also these other entities that are playing in that space, but don't necessarily take it to the blockchain. Can you break down more of that industry?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll call that industry once again equity crowdfunding, and we'll separate tokenization, which, as you said, it's really just the evolution of that, leveraging new technology, in this case, blockchain, to help fix some of the key problems that I think held back this market. Because today, I think most people are still hearing this term equity crowdfunding, probably maybe even for the first time. And so maybe the idea of, oh, I can invest in a business over the internet makes sense to most people, but most people don't do it because it's not really a common thing due to one, regulation restrictions. You mentioned this alphabet soup of stuff entrepreneurs have to go through in order to sort of like take public money, retail as they call it, which is almost like, a little bit, not cool to say it, but at the end of the day, these accredited investors are considered wealthy enough by the SEC to take the risk to make these private investments that do have a very high rate of failure. And that's why this was sort of the easy way. This is not the right way. I'm certainly not endorsing it, but it is what in the 1930s, when they made up these laws, was their easy way of saying, how do we make sure grandma doesn't lose her shirt? We can make sure we can control the public markets, right? They have tons of regulation, even since then. Before the 1930s, they had regulation there, but even to this day, obviously the public markets in the United States, the stock market is the most competitive, the most liquid, the biggest by a large factor capital market in the world. It's the most trusted. But private capital markets, which are actually 3 times bigger, are much harder to regulate because they don't have all these rules. And so one of those rules is basically only these accredited investors, qualified investors can invest in these deals. But part of the Jobs Act was legislators and lawmakers finally acknowledging us individuals, saying, we think it's ridiculous that you can't invest in these things unless you're only rich, especially when you look at the fact that, as we all know, with a lot of risk comes a lot of reward, right? So this is one of the best attractive asset classes to invest in. And most average individuals, really, it's only the top 10% of Americans qualify to invest in this asset class, private equity or private capital markets, unless you get through these tiny little openings that have been created thanks to this law, the Jobs Act, Reg CF, regulation crowdfunding. I switched my camera. I'm going to go back to that. My camera. I will just adjust from here.
You're good. If you refresh your page, I think you can pick the camera you want again coming in, if that's better. He's able to come back in.
Yep. Facts.
So then that's how we do it. So in the future, if you ever get disconnected, you can do that. Or if you switch the camera.
Will it work for me as a host though? Because I feel like it could.
I think as long as one person's still here, it remains open.
Gotcha.
Because I did it. I've done it today because my stuff that happened.
Okay.
And so I had to jump back in. But you should be able to jump back in. But that's to build on what you guys were saying. That's such a peak interest topic for me here too in Canada, because for all the things that you're complaining about that it's hard to raise money, it's equally, if not more so, difficult here because there's not even really players in the game as much. Of course there are, don't get me wrong, but it's not really as much of a thing. So when I spend a bit of time looking to get funding, and then I'm like, okay, this is going to be a nearly impossible uphill battle where it's I'll be burning more time trying to get the money than I could doing it growing the business. Do you know what I mean? It's that much of a thing where if you're not getting an obvious yes, you got to fight for it for a long time. And at that point, you're probably cooked because the business idea, if it's really good, someone's probably already run with it.
True. Yeah. That's one thing about the US in general. And I mean, this Jobs Act completely opened everything up for what it looked like to continue to raise capital in the US. And obviously, you had the 90s, you had the tech boom, but those people were all going to the public markets, right?
Totally.
To really take it to that next level. But now people can actually participate in this when these companies take this route.
Totally. He's back.
We good?
Yes, sir. Go for it.
Sir.
So I remember kind of being talking about the fact that, look, at the end of the day, you can't access these markets. It sounds like Keith picked up on it right away, right? This new law invented it. But long story short, it didn't really take off, both for accredited investors. Even the top 10% aren't really investing online. And as far as the retail accessible deals, right, compare it to IPOs, which is the real way that most of us get into these opportunities, it is like a minority fraction of the deals that came through Reg CF or a Reg A beforehand. And long story short is that, again, it just didn't become a standard practice for entrepreneurs to say, I'm going to go to an equity crowdfunding platform and go raise money for my business, because there's tons of investors that are ready to invest over the web and ready to accept my, pitch opportunity. I think one of the big reasons that tokenization solves, we're going to get into, is this liquidity and ownership component that you don't get when you invest over the web. People would literally wire for accredited investors 100 grand, even more, or even as retail investors, even a couple $1,000s, right? Or even a few hundred. That's real money going over the web to a private company. So you don't have these protections of the public market. You really don't have a lot of transparency or insight to what's going on. You're limited to what they kind of inform you to. And ultimately, the hold time for these investments is extraordinarily long. Either somebody has to come and buy the company, or they have to go and do an IPO. They have to go public, right? For other people to come in and buy your shares. So this is on average 5, 8, 10 years for private companies as an investment period. So, you got to be ready for the long haul. And for folks who are investing, who don't have a lot of money, they don't have a way out, this is not exactly the most attractive method. And I get why equity crowdfunding really never took off to that capacity. I don't know if you agree or disagree, or have any questions around that, Keith or Ben?
No, man. Makes sense. I'd love to now take it to the tokenization. What does tokenization mean? Everyone's hearing this term left and right, up and down. What does it really mean? And how does blockchain enable anything different than what we have today?
Yep, that is the talk of town right now, because as you mentioned, I've been talking about this since 2016, since 2017. Only banks and asset managers really over the last couple of years are now agreeing that, okay, this blockchain thing, this tokenization concept is actually the next operating system of finance. So if we go back to this equity crowdfunding model, completely centralized, right? You can kind of think of these websites as investment banks or brokers that basically say, hey, we've got deals for you, come to us and we'll give you a piece of them. But these are all held and controlled by whoever the distributor is, whoever the investment bank is, right? At least with public markets, it's a little bit more fair and open, and there's concentrated access. But with equity crowdfunding, it's a completely private market. There are no stock exchanges, right? There is, like, most of this activity, which by the way is the same for most of Wall Street, is managed by spreadsheets. PDFs and spreadsheets operate finance as a whole. Hundreds of trillions of dollars basically operate through PDF and Excel. That is crazy to think about. That is the operating system we deal with today. Tomorrow's operating system is blockchain. That's what everyone is saying. Look, at the end of the day, what we're talking about are ledgers, back from the early days when people manually recorded things, to actually on Wall Street, there was something called the Great Paper Crisis, because I kid you not, there were so many orders coming through. There were paper boys running around with all the stock certificates they had to swap for deals. And eventually there was just so many they had to shut down and figure out where goes what, because there was just so much going on. And this actually helped lead to the invention of the NASDAQ, which is an electronic trading system. And essentially the idea that we are now using, right, a lot of digital components to trade, which again goes back to a lot of reconciliation, a lot of back office, a lot of that infrastructure. A lot of it comes down to PDFs and spreadsheets, as well as, some centralized databases, we'll call them. That is what finance is today. A bunch of people who don't trust each other, that need to move people's assets around or manage people's money. And they need to work with middlemen, as they call them, right? To basically, in order to trust each other and make transactions happen with each other. On the blockchain, in the same way that, you can just send somebody a Bitcoin and automatically I sent you the Bitcoin, it leaves my wallet, it goes into your wallet. That exchange is recorded on chain. That is a financial transaction, just like any other financial transaction, whether you swap out money for a stock or for a piece of gold or for a crypto asset, even, right? The idea is you now can use the blockchain to have essentially near instantaneous settlement. The counterparty risk is completely gone. Imagine trade finance where it's like, hey, I'm going to put the order in and I have to wait 2 weeks for the goods to ship and then I give you the rest of my money. Like there's all these applications across finance that get ruined or bottlenecked or slowed down due to human people involved, right? Making sure that the PDF or the Excel is right or the identity information is correct for compliance, all these things that are getting streamlined and onboarded and automated. The key word here is automation that the blockchain allows. It is still just a ledger, just like spreadsheets are, right? The difference with this blockchain ledger is what they call smart contracts. It's a fancy way of saying programmable spreadsheets. If you've ever met somebody who's like, I can make an amazing programmable spreadsheet, you're like, cool, you like maybe know macro on Excel, and most people are like, whatever, nobody cares, right? But for blockchain, you can actually create entire, applications that are publicly accessible. Think of it like apps in a way of sort, right? Instead of apps on Excel, you can now have apps on real platforms tied to a database that's much better than Excel because of this programmable capability. Is the way they like to say the internet allowed you to move money, or the internet allowed you to move information, right? What blockchain allows you to do is move value. And that is a major game changer. So hopefully that is, blockchain is not an easy topic. No one should feel like they have to understand it. Don't even bother trying to go down the rabbit hole of the technology of consensus mechanisms, but hopefully just understand that it's a better spreadsheet and it's a better operating system. And it's one that is going to be better for every stakeholder involved. I'm talking about the banks and asset managers. I'm talking about us, most importantly, but I'm even talking about regulators and governments and everyone that's involved in the pie of finance. They are going to be pro blockchain, and most people are now finally there. I was way too early when we met, Keith, as they would say, but I'm a believer, and that's why I'm still here today.
Totally, man. When it comes to thinking about who's really going to stand to benefit from this, and you can be honest, Herwig, you can be honest. Who do you think really is going to see the major benefit of this technology, and in what ways will people continue to still see the benefits as well?
Yeah. So the good news is this is like, a quality of life benefit thing. At the end of the day, what's happening is these middlemen that are getting eroded out, the markets that are getting opened up, is creating a fairer marketplace and is creating better opportunities for everybody involved in that connected market. And a great way to kind of look at this is, crypto is an example of, hey, we're going to all go and create our own financial system, right? It's not tied to literally any money other than people bringing money in and out of it from selling their assets. But otherwise, it's its own decentralized finance, as I like to say, its own financial ecosystem. But then the thing called stable coins came along. For anyone who hasn't heard that term, it's a way of saying tokenized money. You can get your money just like you can have a Bitcoin. And in this case, it means you can move your money just like a Bitcoin instantly and access these new applications that are being built. And so stable coins became a critical component of this world of digital assets where there was no access outside of off-chain money, right? Fiat coming in and out through exchanges that were acting as the gatekeepers, basically to money, real money coming into crypto assets. But now that real money can go into stable coins and it can join the on-chain system, it can now go into digital assets, sure, but it can also go another way, which is what I believe is the future of all of crypto. It's the future of all of finance, as we're talking about. It's the idea that instead of having to go through a broker or instead of having to manage your money through a bank account, you literally have everything on your phone in a wallet. That is sensational for anyone who's growing up today, under 18 or just turned 18. That's the way they're going to operate when it comes to managing their assets and their money. They don't want to have to learn and get used to slow brokers. That's why Robinhood has been so successful at making an easier way to invest in stocks, right? This is going to be across the board an easier way to access finance everywhere, not just for Americans, but for everyone around the world. And that is exceptional. Stablecoins today are already disrupting massive payments businesses, enabling new global, cross-border transactions, settlement of massive assets and transactions. That's all happening around, all faster. It's, I think last year, $5 trillion worth of, transactions. That's a lot. That's not nothing. That's not just crypto. That's real activity in the real world. And so that's what I'm excited about. As I mentioned earlier, this tokenization element will bring new opportunities to everybody involved. Or even if you don't want to get excited about this technology or learn it, it will automatically serve you, because now the banks, now the folks that are on Wall Street that manage all of those functions, they're on board. And they're saying, if I don't adapt, I'm going to die, because we are talking about, again, such an immense upgrade from spreadsheets to PDFs. It'll be like, hey, we're going to go use this logistics company. We have option A that uses horse and buggy, and we have option B that uses trucks. Is anybody going to go use the horse and buggy company, right? No. So this is the future rails of finance, without a doubt. And what's going to happen is the banks and the asset managers, all the key players that adapt, they're going to benefit tremendously. That is capitalism. That is the new market order, and fees will translate to those who are able to position themselves right around this opportunity and around this new infrastructure, this new market, this new on-chain operating system. And there are those who are going to be first movers, as us as individuals, who look at this and say, why am I keeping my money in a bank account? And I'm not advising you to move all your money out of a bank account, right? There's FDIC insurance, and thanks to the Genius Act, you're going to see some banks launch their own stable coins that are FDIC insured, called deposit tokens. There's all kinds of reasons why you might want to custody your money with a bank. But one really good reason to take some money out and put it into a stable coin is because you can literally go earn money with it right away. As opposed to sitting in a savings account and doing nothing for you. And the fact that you can swap and instantly get your money back out, so you can go in and out, off chain, on chain, off chain, whenever you want, pretty quickly, instantly. Maybe some few fees right now that people are taking advantage of, but that speed, that is the difference for so many folks, not just in investments and in trading, but in life, right? When you have a serious situation come up and you need money. Remember that crowdfunding investment we talked about? Good luck selling that $5,000 you put into that VR company. But those tokens that you own today, you can go sell them, or you can even go get a loan against them. You don't need to go to a bank. You don't need to go talk to anybody. You literally have your wallet. You have your asset. You can go loan against your asset. Give me your tokens as collateral. Here's some USDC or USDT, some stable coins. Go use it as you need. Cash it out for the off-chain world, or go and use it in the on-chain world. But these opportunities are going to improve finance for everybody, right? That's sort of how I see it.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of benefits that are fairly obvious when you start thinking about it, but people's minds typically do also go to the negative potential use cases of technology like this. Like Cross Central had a great question in the chat here. So, but tokenization mainly has centralized issuers and have smart contract logic that can freeze the token like USDC. So, will it really benefit the average person or make us enslaved and own nothing? That's definitely a big point of concern that a lot of people come to.
Yeah, I have probably not the most fun answer for people that they want to hear. And frankly, it's if that's a real big reason that they're rooting on for Bitcoin, right? And for certain crypto assets, to say, hey, we don't want to be tied or hedged to the US monetary system or to the global financial system in that way. But if you go back to what we're really talking about in a grand scheme of things, which is billions of people using money every day, and all of that ties back to the US dollar today as it backs the entire world's markets, basically. And so what we're talking about is really an identity question versus more of like a political question, in my opinion. And my answer is, like, today, your bank accounts can already be frozen. Like, we're already enslaved to the system. And yes, stable coins today are also going to freeze action where there are hacks, where there are, bad actors, etc. So if you are sort of in this camp that doesn't want to live in a world where those protections exist because you want to sacrifice those protections for your own freedoms, that's why crypto is for you. And has tons of problems, which is why most people cannot exist in today's world. Only in the crypto world, you have to play with the world economy. And guess what? Unfortunately, most people don't agree with the opinion of, they agree with the opinion of, okay, I want my rights to certain things, so to my money, my assets. But at the end of the day, they also want those protections. And when FTX scams happen, and when all of these other issues are happening in capital markets that will improve, including fraud, including bad actors, right? People that are ripping people off in the markets, not because they are creating value or investing in value. That can all be tracked better on chain. That can all be managed better on chain. And in a world where you find yourself having the government needing to freeze your assets or money, I hate to break it to you, they're going to freeze your accounts anyway, whether they're on chain or not. So yes, the best recourse you can have is digital crypto assets that you can truly own within a wallet, that you self-custody, that cannot be seized unless somebody takes it from you. But if you want to then go to Walmart or go buy things and enable with the rest of the world, you have to play the game of we use the US dollar and the government controls it. And we're inevitably always going to be under the sovereignty of that and the freeze functionality of that. Now, what I do endorse is like laws being passed to make sure we can support these freedoms and fight them in court, to make sure that the government can't just randomly freeze things, that it has to be under warrant and other things, right? There are legal steps that we need to take to make sure that we protect our rights and freedoms, but we shouldn't pretend that the government cannot freeze your bank account. And most people do not keep their cash in their mattress anymore. That's just not a feasible thing.
Totally. And I do understand the concerns. I mean, I was just in Toronto a little bit ago, and it was very clear that, and this is happening all over the world, people are moving towards like the cashless society, right? Everything going digital. There being, with that, obviously, the potential for very, what's the word, like draconian sorts of measures that can be taken when someone is able to just potentially sit at the top of this technological system and decide who wins, who loses, who gets to pay, who doesn't. And crypto being a potential answer to that, I think is worth investigating. One of the things that I'm always watching for is how the rest of the system is kind of working its way back into making that even less likely of a thing. And I talk about this a little bit here and there, but one of the things that I think a lot of people overlook in crypto is that it actually does require internet access, right? To actually be able to use a lot of this technology, even if you're running a Bitcoin node, right? You still are having to deal with AT&T or Verizon or one of these larger players who, by the way, you don't hear a lot from them, but they are 100% cognizant of what's happening in the world of digital assets and blockchain and the different ways in which they have opportunities within it all. But I will leave that there. But I did want to go over to this piece about, we talked about how the big institutional players are having to pay attention to what's happening with tokenization, and they're having to actually, address this now. And so I wanted to bring back an older clip here of Larry Fink talking about Bitcoin, and then also his thoughts on tokenization that came out last year. But this is an older interview, I think a few years back, of Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock.
Absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic. Yes. I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
So this was 2024, July 2024. Any initial thoughts on that one, Herwig?
One, that the price of Bitcoin is like basically the same. That's pretty wild. But the initial takeaway is, I saw some of the comments pop up too, right? BlackRock probably doesn't necessarily believe so much in the ethos of Bitcoin so much as they just understand it and recognize that there's a huge market opportunity in being a financial institution for it. They are making more money from the Bitcoin ETFs right now than they are making from like all the other ETF products or something like that. They are creating new business segments that are not just for Bitcoin, but also for tokenization to create new funds that are on chain and accessible. But going back to Bitcoin, I think it's just BlackRock recognizing, and that's a big deal. You don't need BlackRock to believe in it, to recognize that if you want Bitcoin to be treated as an asset class that most people take seriously, because if you're going to need to have full education of the entire planet, right, to truly understand how Bitcoin is this, essentially private version of money controlled by the people, right? This private asset that can't be frozen at the end of the day, as we were talking about earlier. But for most people to even consider buying it, they want easy ways to buy it, or they want to know that it is legitimate. And BlackRock has built a name within finance that people have kept their money with for decades now, to say, hey, I trust this company to do the research to validate, is this thing legit or not? The same way that you might, look at a company to say, hey, is this AI company legit? Sure, I don't know if I believe in their strategy, but at least it's not a fake thing or a scam, which is a really big deal that BlackRock acknowledged that, and helped kind of bring in a load of money. At the end of the day, I don't like to speculate on the price of Bitcoin. I think inevitable to me is sort of, so far the data speaks for itself and where it's going to be headed eventually, which I think is probably another rebound, right? But I'll leave it at that. When, who knows? More so, what I do think is going to happen is the more money that comes into the space that can buy Bitcoin easier, and not just through ETFs, but I'm talking through stable coins, baby, right? If lots of stable coins are buying Bitcoin all day, that's going to have huge market pressure globally. And eventually we get back into the value of digital gold, as Larry Fink said it, right? And you can believe in gold or silver or other things, but it is just one of those assets that I think BlackRock engaged. And I'll end it with this, Keith, that maybe that educational session that Larry Fink gave himself, or at least had his executives teach him, right? Let him understand what blockchain is. Because I think a lot of people hear Bitcoin and they hear crypto and they kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Blockchain, this technology that underpins all that, is also useful in finance. And that must have clicked for him in a big way, because then, as we saw, he started to go out and be very bullish. So that's the key takeaway, is educate yourself. Because before that, he at least didn't even understand it, and he called it a scam, which is what most people are calling a lot of even tokenization projects today, when it is in fact the most legitimate form of crypto as I see it, depending on your definition of crypto, right? But of blockchain assets, of digital assets.
Totally. And then last year he was at the I'll see it right here real quick at this the Future Investment Initiative, and he was talking about how he really feels about tokenization from that point on. So let's hear him talk about that at the moment.
I would say the biggest question from central banks is what is the role of tokenization and digitization? How quickly should they think about digitizing their own currency? What does that mean for the role of the dollar? If every currency digitizes and we have what does that mean for bank payments? What does that mean for the payment companies like MasterCard and Visa? All these are being questioned right now. I will make, I think we spend so much time talking about AI. We're not spending enough time talking about how quickly we're going to tokenize every financial asset and the opportunity we're going to have a digital wallet and moving ETFs and other things through a digital wallet. And I think that's going to happen worldwide very rapidly. And I think most countries are ill prepared for that and underappreciate how technology is changing that, not unlike how technology is changing AI and other things. It will be changing the technology around the plumbing of finance.
Got you on mute, Keith.
Yeah, you're muted, Keith.
So I saw that that ended up freezing up there. But did you see this when this happened, Herwig? What did you think when you heard Larry Fink shouting to the rooftops about tokenization and comparing it to what's happening with AI?
Same thing as I just said about Bitcoin, which is like, finally, they have validated this technology, right? Since 2017, 2016, but really 2017 as I started, and even 2018 as I raised some money for my business, right? I was laughed out of rooms. People were like, ICOs are the future. Finance doesn't care about this technology. They'll safeguard their plumbing forever, as Larry Fink calls it, right? But I was like, no, determined to say this is just so much better version of finance, right? That this is inevitably going to be the future. And so finally, nearly 6 years, 7 years plus later, you have the world's largest asset manager, and you had others earlier, including JP Morgan, by the way, same story of don't listen to what I say, look at what I do. Acknowledging that this technology is again just so much better version of PDFs and spreadsheets, and what it means for the world is going to be, and what it means for markets and for finance is across the board. It's across the whole ocean. Everything's going to change, from the bank payments, like he's saying, from market access, from the way you can access financial services, to the costs and the rate that you'll be able to benefit to them. And then eventually AI. We haven't even gotten to the end game, the all roads lead to Rome, when AI agents are able to move blockchain-based assets on your behalf and are essentially able to manage assets, manage your wealth, trade, make investments, create loans, and do everything with each other, as opposed to relying on you to go and open up a wallet and load it up with stable coins and then go find your vaults or your investment opportunities and then go trade them or manage them whatsoever. But in order for AI to do that, they can't do that today. They need, and in order for the financial system to be able to trust it, they need a system like blockchain that offers that trustless infrastructure that allows us to know who owns what, who made what trade, and make sure that everything is being done proper.
For all the people that see this coming, a lot of people have latched on to specific projects, and that's been their bet on the evolution and growth of this. How do you look at benefiting from the change at large rather than picking like one specific thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's sort of part of what we're trying to do with the RWA Foundation, which is the idea of just promoting this technology as a benefit for everyone to start taking advantage of, because it's just a better way to access finance. And for many people who don't have access to U.S. stocks, for many people who don't have access to U.S. real estate, which is considered the best version of real estate around, right? That's a huge deal. let alone for us, vice versa, to be able to access investment opportunities all around the world, wherever you are, whether you're in North America or otherwise, right? So how do you kind of get exposure to all this, right? There's so many different ways. There's even now public companies. You can even go to the stock market and invest in companies like Figure, Securitize, as they're sexy. If you think about some of these major companies that are leaning into this, BlackRock, as we talked about, but Franklin Templeton, Invesco, and Wisdom Tree, and there are others that are moving into this space saying, hey, we recognize this future. You can invest in the actual infrastructure themselves. So some of them have tokenized their own businesses, or some of these tokenization tangent companies have their own crypto token related to that infrastructure. And that offers you exposure either directly via the equity or via the crypto component tied to this infrastructure, right? And so those are the three different ways. And then there are real, like you can even say there are some cryptos that are now becoming RWA companies, or in my opinion, always were, right? Look, you've heard of Ripple, I'm sure, was top 3 asset all the time, right? That essentially is to me one of the perfect examples of too soon because they were already on this train of, hey, the finance world, banks, they're all going to use Ripple. They were wrong because had Ripple invented a stable coin, they would probably be bigger than Tether today, and they would be the most profitable company in the world. So in my opinion, they kind of fumbled it, even though very successful, obviously, outcome for everyone involved. But that is what they were trying to do, was to become Tether, realistically, to become this financial services company that banks and traditional finance can come and embrace and say, hey, we want to use this blockchain technology. I see somebody noticed I'm wearing Solana. Solana is another one of those chains, right? Exposing yourself to the crypto tokens or to the protocols where these assets are being stored, right? Just like a server, just like you would bet on Amazon or Google or Microsoft because of their web services business. You want to bet on a protocol for the amount of BlackRock activity and stock market activity and commodities activity and money and payments activity are being managed on that chain, because usually the underlying token, right, has some kind of benefit tied to that chain having activity. So, whether it's Solana, whether it's Ethereum, or whether there are, Stellar or Avalanche or dozens of other chains, and there are hundreds, and there are even versions from the Wall Street banks that they're called private or permission chains, right? They're trying to create their own version of this. We can probably get to that in a little bit too, right? About Wall Street trying to build its own moats around this, but the pressures of this kind of decentralized technology, this kind of open source, this movement, right? That everyone wants access to these stocks. It's massive. It's absolutely a massive opportunity. So again, if you can invest directly in equity or in the public stock or in the tokens tied to crypto, to tokenization, or RWAs as we call it, or just to simply the blockchains that have the most activity, which today is Ethereum, but Solana and others are trying to, come up with that. Or, there's, first of all, anybody can win this race, because we're talking about hundreds of trillions of dollars across real estate, across debt, across stocks, across commodities, across, you name it, all kinds of assets that are coming on chain that will create millions of opportunities for people to make money on a small level, or entrepreneurs who are building these rails on a very large level. So hopefully that's a good answer for you, Ben.
Super good. I just had one thing I wanted to add on, Keith, before I'll throw it back to you. So
Please.
the thing you said there was anyone can win this race. Is it a race where there is one winner, or do you see multiple people winning, or multiple chains winning, whatever?
Good question. It is definitely, in my opinion, the latter, right? There is no one winner, because again, we're talking about such an enormous force. And actually there were monopoly type winners before. There's a company called the DTCC. They settle quadrillions worth of stocks every year, because they are essentially the global settlement exchange system, not just for the New York Stock Exchange and for the NASDAQ, for the London Stock Exchange and for Singapore and for Switzerland, and you name it, just about every other, Japan, right? Every other major finance center relies on this company to manage that plumbing, as well as there are tons of big winners in finance that we've seen that have just been able to carve out large businesses owning a specific segment, whether it's custody or whether it's a certain asset class or whether it's a geography, right? Which is another great example of what's happening here with geography is you're not just going to own one market. You're talking about all these global markets coming together. Stable coins were good for the US dollar because we enabled more people globally to buy into the US dollar, right? To buy US debt, essentially. People are now realizing, or at least lawmakers and legislators and folks in America are saying, hey, if we tokenize stocks and we bring more people around the world as buyers into the American stock market, well, that's a good thing for the stock market too, right? And so the analogy of why tokenization works is growing. And so I think I'm rambling a little bit here, but you get the idea of hopefully there are going to be many, many winners. As far as chains, there are already so many. You can technically fork a chain and just create some new changes to it. The key isn't the technology always, right? The key is actually creating the network effects, creating the liquidity, having that battle down, because that is why the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ win today, because everybody concentrates their liquidity there. And now for the first time ever, you have a new competitive force saying, hey, whether it's a technology company like Tether, by the way, Tether's a great example. Tether is one of the most profitable, more profitable than most of Wall Street companies. And they are the 7th largest buyer of US Treasuries. That list of the top 10 buyer of US Treasuries every year, those are countries, except for Tether. This guy, Paulo Arduino, an Italian guy that now has incredible influence literally on the US dollar through a technology company he created that tokenizes the dollar. And today there are hundreds of stablecoin companies. There are stablecoin companies that help companies make stablecoins, right? So there's going to be so many stablecoins, and banks are now going to launch their deposit tokens. And there are so many markets and geographies, and now the ability to compete for liquidity or create liquidity, that I think is the future. You're going to obviously have some core winners, right? That do concentrate a majority of it, I think, right? But you're not going to have one. You're not going to have two. There will be more.
I do want to talk about stable coins, but I do also want to get your quick thoughts on the DTCC in their most recent announcement about the fact that they're going to start tokenizing transactions this year in July, starting in July. They also mentioned that they're going to be using the Canton network in particular for some of these tokenizations. Have you looked into the Canton network? What are your thoughts on that? Is that the inside of the system creating a solution to not have to relegate its control over to others, or how do you look at what they're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Canton, I know, Canton was created by Digital Asset, just one of the older crypto companies in the space. Yuval, the CEO and founder, I've had on our podcast that we used to do for 6 years, that you well know, right, Keith?
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm pretty familiar, let's just say. And it's the same, similar kind of value proposition as Ripple was coming into it, as some other chains have come into it, which is to say we are creating the blockchain rails designed for Wall Street. They have their own token, which they have been using as an incentive tool, which is the power of these crypto assets. Folks that do not take advantage, or I should say entrepreneurs that are ignoring crypto assets as a business competitive advantage, are going to lose, right? Because Canton right now, I think it's doing $1 billion worth of incentives with its token to bring in a huge network of people, including some of the biggest names in finance, to create the legitimacy and that liquidity that I mentioned that is so critical to this whole thing, in order to kind of, jumpstart, if you will, this Canton network. But instead of it being sort of very grassrootsy or a random issuer, an asset getting listed on it one by one, kind of reverse engineered it and said, hey, we're going to go to the whole system, ecosystem, and bring as many people on from day one to kind of legitimize and create this infrastructure. And they have a token called the Canton token, which is also bringing in a lot of retail hype, because it was just funny because, again, this is a bet on really institutions. And that's where you can start to get into, again, a more philosophical debate about, do you just want pure opportunity? Obviously, finance, take it from my word right now, all right, from my mouth. They're coming in and they're going to run with this technology as fast as possible. They've now acknowledged it. The genie is out of the bottle, if you will. And every bank and asset manager is now looking at each other and saying, okay, who's making moves and how do we react to them? And who are we really going to team up with in this new era of finance that's coming? And the more that they are able to create their old moats, their network effects of controlling these systems, the more power they will have on what gets distributed, on what rates are set, who can get access. If a new blockchain comes along and they have to win over BlackRock and Bank of America and Morgan Stanley and JPM all over again, that means TradFi, as we call it, right? Traditional finance once again owns this moat. Going back to decentralized finance or permissionless finance, as we like to call it, the idea, what stems behind the RWA Foundation is to promote access to assets for all people and to essentially enable a movement, right, that concentrates this liquidity and says, hey, we are not just going to succumb to the same old institutions all over again. We believe in supporting technology and startups that support the same mission to make it possible for us to access stocks, to access assets, to access financial services permissionlessly in a competitive and fair market that everybody can participate in. And as long as everybody agrees with that, then I think we as the users are going to be the better ones off, right? Because we are now able to kind of combat the forces, the competitive forces of TradFi.
One of the biggest things that has taken place over the past year and a half here has been the legislative and regulatory landscape around all of this. So last year, President Trump came in promising to make America the crypto capital of the world. In that, signed a few executive orders in like the first week or so in office. And also towards the second half of the year, I believe it was, helps to get the Genius Act across the finish line. The Genius Act providing legitimacy to the entire stablecoin industry, and then allowing for the next step to be a full market infrastructure bill, which is being worked on at the moment, called the Clarity Act. I put out a short the other day where you left a nice correction for me on like what the actual battle is right now between the big banks and the crypto industry, which prompted me to think, why wouldn't I have Herwig come on and talk about all of this stuff with us? I want to play a clip from Jamie Dimon, because we also brought him up a little bit earlier, talking about how he's kind of flip-flopped as well on what this technology means. So let's hear some thoughts that he had for the press, talking about what's going on with the Clarity Act and what it may mean for them. And then, Herwig, I'd love to hear you break down what the conflict is all about.
It will be fought. This will not be, no one's going to bow down to this guy, okay, or that company. And but he's the only one. Yeah. And he's spending hundreds of millions of dollars in Washington this thing.
He said he's representing the whole industry.
He's full of shit.
How do you respond to him?
Well, I've got a lot of respect for Jamie Dimon, so it was kind of sad to hear that. JP Morgan's a great company. He's put up incredible numbers there. I feel like I've learned a lot from him as a CEO. And ultimately, this isn't really about Jamie Dimon or me, even though people like to focus on that. It's just about how we get clear rules in America so that this industry can get built here and benefit everyone. I think that would be good for American consumers. I think it'd be good for the banks. There's a whole set of new provisions and benefits that banks get in there in this draft legislation. It would be great for crypto companies as well. Most importantly, it's good for America. So hopefully we can get past the absolutisms and just see if we can get this bill over the finish line.
There.
Ooh, you just want the raw reaction?
any initial thoughts on this conflict here and what this may mean for crypto?
I mean, first of all, kudos to Brian for the nice, thoughtful response. The fact that you see the CEO of basically the largest bank in America saying, "Hey, he's full of shit," like that means he's triggered. That's what that word is. He's triggered, and he's right to be triggered because the Clarity Act is going to open up more forces. legitimizes and validates everything that we've been talking about with crypto all these years, because it finally acknowledges crypto as an asset class. It doesn't just create much needed rules. That's the entire point. It's because we are now finally acknowledging it as an asset class, we're willing to write rules for it, right? So that's the key component here that I think is happening, which means that a lot of the initial ethos of crypto, right? Think about where Bitcoin started, and think about even with decentralized finance, right? A lot of the ethos was always, how can we take back control from these financial institutions? So the Clarity Act helping validate crypto assets and legitimize this industry means that, without a doubt, as we've been talking about on this episode, more money will flow and open up and move around. And if your main business is deposits, right? Custodying cash, you don't want money to move around. You want everybody to keep their money in JP Morgan and Chase accounts, or you want them to keep in their brokerage accounts, right? Or to use their financial services and use this nice walled garden that is the house of JP Morgan, or whichever big bank or asset manager that is providing these financial services to you as an individual. And because the system has gotten so big and concentrated between some of these major banks custodying so much money and so many assets, that this idea that it could just suddenly, leave overnight is a big concern, and a rightful one. Even though I fully believe in the idea that everyone should have on-chain money, right? It should be potentially backed, right? Most likely for the right protections by consumer protections, right? So that we don't all just suddenly lose our shirt from some random stuff or an AI agent that fleeces us, right? We need rules, and so this has been the biggest thing that crypto entrepreneurs have been fighting for. And Brian, on behalf of Coinbase, is doing a tremendous job representing the whole industry on that one, to be able to say, look, this isn't about Coinbase. Coinbase, as one of the biggest players in the space, is of course going to benefit tremendously, but so is the whole space. And I think the banks are scared. Asset managers that are scared and not doing anything about it are going to get left behind. And the ones that are recognizing the opportunity are going to start moving into the space. They're not going to rush it. They're not going to move into it overnight. They're going to slow walk it as much as they can and build as many moats as they can while this new technology gets developed. And they're going to make sure that they can survive, right? But none of this looks like an overnight Wall Street is dead. Suddenly everybody's got their money in wallets, and suddenly all assets are now on chain, and people are, living much more financially positive lives because they are now, actually more financially stable, or able to access financial services at a better rate or at all, and are able to create wealth as a result of this newfound access that in many cases have been led to being exclusive to a certain segment of the population, or just by geography. And so that's why this is a very big deal. The banking monopoly has finally come under fire as a result of the Clarity Act.
So it seems like Brian Armstrong's become the guy that they're presenting to the public, the non-crypto people. Do you think that was an intentional choice because they think he's like the best communicator to do the job? Or do you think there'll be more people that start entering the chat as like multiple faces of this movement?
Well, that is the key, right? Because I don't think anybody can really fully take, somebody's word for the full truth, as we've identified with Jamie Dimon and with BlackRock's Larry Fink. But same thing in the world of crypto, right? They have their own conflicts that they want to make sure that it's like, hey, am I truly the end user and benefit here? So in my opinion, he's the de facto choice, because he is the industry's most recognizable person, and the industry wants a champion from within the industry to argue on behalf of the industry, the same way that the current leaders in charge of these financial institutions are now the head figures, right? The Larry Finks and Jamie Dimons of the world, to kind of also speak for all of Wall Street. So that means you really want a neutral source at the end of the day to trust on. That's actually, again, self-promo, why with the RWA Foundation, why I started that. I basically helped a lot of this infrastructure gets started, prove out the technology, basically be the guy promoting the fact that, this is something people should pay attention to with research and with media and whatever else I could do with events like Tokenize This. But it wasn't until 2 years ago in 2024 at Tokenize This that I realized that it's official. Banks are here, asset managers are here. They're all going to come in. They're all going to do whatever they can as they will to, build competitive advantages. So that's why I have to start the RWA Foundation, because this is a movement for everyone about making sure we educate the world on the benefits of RWAs, right? That to me, this is the cheesy line of banking the unbanked, creating world liberty through or financial liberty, if you will, for all people, right? That is truly our mission. And at the end of the day, what we promote is anything that supports and advocates for the individual, right? In this new world of on-chain finance that we're headed into. Again, sorry for the self promo, but I guess
no.
So here,
promo as much as you want. Do your thing, 100%. No, and I think that's very important from optics management from the masses, right? You do need characters to spread a message, and I also think that crypto does have some positive things going in its favor in terms of perception and how people see banks and how people see the traditional thing. So I do think people will be a lot more receptive to this message, but it's very important to have figureheads that people can get behind. So makes total sense to me. I hope that you become one of them too. I'd love to see you on the news and stuff talking about this stuff.
I hope so. I plan to.
I think you will, man.
My job, at least, that I'm embracing.
No, certainly deserving of a spot in the conversation. I wanted to ask you, Herwig, if we were to look at the security token industry and security tokens and the technology, blockchain behind it all, if we looked at that in 10 years, what does that look like to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I hinted at it earlier, right? And if we take kind of even further macro perspective, it's probably like 2040, 2050 that, as I mentioned, we're kind of going to have a full on-chain world, right? The idea that basically every asset that gets created or issued or found in the physical world will be ledgered on-chain. And essentially, you'll call it 90+%, 95% of the world's assets at that point will more or less be available or accessible in on-chain finance. And, I could be wrong by 10 or 20 years, but I would guess around 2040, 2050. One of those massive accelerants, and the reasons for that, is AI. Because of what I mentioned earlier, the idea that you can have an AI manage your wealth and even potentially provide competitive strategies for investment. And you are going to now see a whole new world of agentic trading that will enter the market. And this is another big reason with the foundation and why we want to encourage everybody to take advantage of this technology, of this new on-chain finance, real world assets, security tokens, because eventually, with the wealth gap the way that it's going, the way that markets are controlled with economies of scale and with access and such, if the world goes on-chain and we allow the wealthy to essentially trade using AI, as individuals, we are going to year by year get priced out of opportunities or make it more difficult to achieve levels of wealth. I actually believe, pretty crazy to say for some people, but by that 2050 mark, it's not really like an overnight pause, but we will essentially see economic stagnation. Economic class growth will no longer be possible, because if you have all markets on chain and you have AI managing the whole thing on behalf of wealthy users, you're never going to see too many trades where people are letting their AI take risk, knowing that there are potentially smarter AI with bigger war chests, right, to be able to go out and do and create business. And so back to reasons why universal basic income and other things that people preach about AI, it's not just about automation of jobs, it's also the automation of the market. And that is a massive deal in the next decade or two, where I want to encourage as many individuals to take advantage of this new form of finance, where they can also, in my opinion, find the most economic mobility, right? And I'm not just talking about middle or lower middle class or even the lower class in America. I'm talking about all people around the world, billions of people in India, in China, in Africa, and in Latin America, and even Europe that do not have access to the world's top tier financial services today. They can't get loans, they can't even get banked, right? And they certainly can't get access to safe opportunities that would help them gain capital, right? Even investing in US treasuries, right? The money behind the money that people get paid for, right? That yield, that treasury yield, only goes to, certain sets of folks and is mostly used as infrastructure for a lot of corporation treasuries and a lot of governments. But most individuals, how many people own a US treasury bond? Right? Everybody owns cash or everyone owns stocks, but most people, unless they have a money market account and they don't realize that they've got exposure to it, or they're not going in and buying treasury bonds, definitely not through the US government, which takes months. It's like not an easy thing to go and buy US treasury bonds, right? So if now suddenly those are being issued on chain and everybody can get access to it and every agent, AI agent can fight for that access, right? Imagine where the world is going to be headed. And so the more people that are positioning themselves on chain to have their wealth on chain, to take advantage of these AI agents, hopefully none of them fall into issues with AI agents getting caught on the wrong end of a trade with a significant portion of your wealth, right? I would not recommend allowing the AI to ever allow to make such trades, but you can imagine that is where the world is headed, where it's not about finding the best deal. The AI agent is already accessing the same rails as everybody else to go out and scour thousands of deals. You would never have that amount of time to go through and figure out. And the AI can get to know who you are, your income level, your risk profile, as they call it, your tolerance for investments and what you prefer to invest in, all those things that it can just go out and go about what it's doing, right? So where does it look like in 5 years? It will look like today people are building AI agents. Today, people are already tokenizing assets on chain. So in the next 3 to 5 years, you better believe AI agents will already be trading in markets. And there are now public securities getting put on chain. So that means public markets too. That's where the future of finance is headed. And why, again, I believe that it's very important to kind of be positioned to take advantage of that as best you can as an individual.
Love it, man. I wanna get some spicy takes from you on a couple of things, Herwig. So I'm gonna ask you some tough questions. All right, you ready for me?
I want it. I've been trying to be spicy. I'm not apparently.
No, man. Yeah, that's been funny because I mean, a few years ago, talking about a lot of this stuff was certainly a lot more spicy. I mean, talking about really bringing what was the phrase of bringing Wall Street? What was the phrase that you guys use? I'm sorry.
I used to say Wall Street without walls.
Wall Street without the walls, right? Like really bringing people into the space and allowing people to participate in capital formation and in investing at the highest levels. But it's definitely now it's just what's happening. It's pretty cool. The first thing that I wanted to ask you about, we've been having a lot of Bitcoin maximalists on the show lately.
Okay, cool.
And one of them, very, very famous thought leader in the Bitcoin space in general, Jeff Booth, he has this statement that he says, everything goes to zero against Bitcoin.
It's all going to zero against Bitcoin. If you don't understand that yet, you're going to be impoverished.
And that's the famous Max Kaiser there saying something very similar. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin versus all of these other blockchains and all of the smart contract blockchains and things of that nature? How do you square that when you're thinking about this space?
That's a phenomenal question because it actually is what led to a lot of the ideas behind the Wally DAO, the token that I mentioned. That's going to be our token instrument to try and help, again, onboard billions of people into RWAs and help them get exposure to this trend so that we can be positioned, right? And as a community, not just as individuals. But I see Bitcoin as really like a macroeconomic asset. right? There are very few of those if you look at the top 100 coin market cap list. Bitcoin, as Jamie Dimon likes to say, or Larry Fink, right? It's just digital gold, as they would kind of brush it off. But that is the entire point that we now have a digital asset that has never been hacked. It would take, quantum computing to a certain degree to be able to even crack it, right? So we're talking about the most secure ledger in the world. There is no more, like every other blockchain we're talking about that finance is being housed on is not as secure as Bitcoin. It is the most secure database in the world. And as it's a limited scarcity factor, right? With the amount of tokens that are available, which like kind of goes down every day as people lose tokens or other things happen, right? But you basically have a mathematical construct with a digital asset that acts as a ledger that, by the way, folks are now building on top of to go back to as a ledger to take advantage of this function. But even when you don't kind of bring that app layer to Bitcoin, you still have an asset that you can transfer that's digital, that's not seizable by the government, that is tied to this arithmetic model, right? That you have to believe in. You understand that, okay, this is just basically supply and demand scarcity. And that at the end of the day, especially also with the mechanics with halving and miners and all that, but you don't need to understand that as much as just truly understanding that it is essentially another asset that is available to the masses to invest in. And people say there's no correlation to the market and other things, but really there's no correlation to the market being able to seize the asset. But there are definitely correlations to people moving money around between Bitcoin and the markets. So how do I look at Bitcoin? Is the same way. It's a super secure database that has demand for by this philosophy that we just went over. And at the end of the day, as more people buy into it, it is hard to beget saying that someone else, or it could go to zero or anything else, right? But there is always a possibility that technically, and which is like if you look at Dogecoin, like Dogecoin can be classified as a meme coin, or it could technically be in that macroeconomic asset category. It was a joke coin to illustrate how you can create essentially a Bitcoin product similar to Bitcoin, except you can have way more tokens as an example, and you can lower the price per token essentially and make it much more attractive. One of the things that Ripple benefited as well is this consumer psychology, right? To be able to say, oh, I can get in at a lower price point. Bitcoin is now so high. There's only 21 million of them, even though there is 100 million units in each Bitcoin. But still, to most people, it's like, okay, but you have to truly understand Bitcoin in that sense. Now, the idea that everything's going to go to zero to Bitcoin is craziness to me, because you are going to need to train an entire 10 billion plus population and infrastructure to move assets around on Bitcoin. And at best, in my opinion, what you will see is similar to the dollar hegemony. And that's what everyone's kind of arguing about, right? Is can this Bitcoin become kind of this asset that everybody bakes against? But, until it reaches a certain level of stability, let's not beat around the bush here, right? Like until it reaches a certain level of stability, because it's at such a high price point, and there's so much liquidity that it barely moves, people can start to rely on it as a stable infrastructure. But because the US dollar has that consistency today, that is what it's threatening. And so, that is again why it becomes a philosophy on whether you believe it or not. In my opinion, this idea that we are going to move into an all Bitcoin world is just unlikely. And it's going to take decades. That doesn't mean that the asset isn't going to continue to go up in value as more and more people buy into this concept, right? But at the end of the day, it's already been essentially almost 20 years, 18 years, 17 years that this technology has been around, and the use case for it to be a currency, which is, by the way, you go read the Bitcoin white paper, which most people should do. If you're going to buy some Bitcoin, please at least go read the white paper. But like, if you read that white paper, you'll see that the original Satoshi vision is nothing what it looks like today. The idea that we could be using Bitcoin to pay for things and that we are no longer relying on the US dollar, that somehow everywhere we use a US dollar has now been replaced with a convenient option to use Bitcoin. Like that is going to take still many, 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 many more decades, if at all. And now you have the same technology offering settlement speeds and insurance and protections and soon government clarity, which the US is just super behind on. Many, many, many other countries around the world have already taken the steps to pass legislation to create clarity around those markets. But we're talking about the United States. We're talking about the biggest capital market in the world. We're talking about the one that can move the slowest and needs to be the most protected in order to create trust for all of its participants, not just a minor few that understand the benefits of this technology. And so that's why, to me, they're going to always rely, the US capital markets will rely on the US dollar, right? And we will continue to prop that up. And that's why I'm a big believer in the Market Clarity Act too, because the Clarity Act will help continue to usher these US markets into its position and control. But don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that the technology is closed, right, to the US or to other people. I want this technology to be open to everyone so that competitive forces around the world can participate in that ecosystem. But the version of Wall Street that we know today in 5 or 10 years is going to look entirely different. I see the comment about Doge is not just a joke coin anymore, and that's correct. It started as a joke coin, but now literally people are building applications and again, believing into the fundamentals similar to Bitcoin. And because there are tons of these types of assets, I think it's interesting. And again, it comes down to your philosophy and what you believe in. And Bitcoin has all this size, right? And all this marketing around it. Most people still haven't heard of Ethereum or care. Most people haven't heard of Dogecoin is probably the second thing they've heard more so than Ripple or anything else, thanks to Elon Musk, right? To me, that's cool, but that's nothing compared to what's about to happen to the hundreds of trillions of dollars in assets that exist today, that will be put on chain, that will move in a similar capacity as Bitcoin, right? That is what's exciting to me. That's really crazy. That's way bigger in size. And that's why with Wally DAO, I mentioned we're going to launch our own token. We're going to launch an instrument that I call in that macroeconomic category. And that the categories would be sort of the economic asset category. You have the utility, right? The application category of protocols where you can host applications on that are really focused on its speed and then the capability of the network versus just the security of Bitcoin, for example. With Wally, we said, hey, we need a macroeconomic digital asset, a crypto asset, but one that is tied to the real world, one that has an economic system that isn't just designed around the scarcity of the math behind it or the utility that you can use the token for to create demand, but actually one that is tied to an economic model that is tied to RWA. Simply put, we have a treasury. A third of the tokens are permanently locked up and designed to leverage the tokens and buy RWAs with them, these different assets, tokenized assets, and rinse and repeat, never to be distributed ever to any token holders. That would make it a security, not a digital asset. And the remaining yield from this evergreen growing portfolio of on-chain assets will be used to support the foundation, a crypto foundation designed to only support the ecosystem, a community pool to vote on initiatives for the ecosystem. Again, no distributions, but hey, do we want to support this or buy more of this or do this educational activity? And then last but not least, a buyback force, right? A third of that excess yield will actually buy the tokens back from the market and then buy or leverage those tokens to buy more RWAs, creating that flywheel effect. 1 year we borrow $1 million, the next year we borrow 10, we go to 50, 100. You might see the Wally DAO one day borrow $1 billion to buy another $1 billion worth of assets and then pay off that loan and then leverage the $1 billion assets to now do 2 billion, right? Like this is where this economic flywheel that cannot be stopped comes in as our economic philosophy of why people want to back our token beyond the utility and the benefits we're going to attach to it for accessing RWAs, accessing this new on-chain finance. But the crux of it is that. So that's my philosophy on these economic digital assets. And Bitcoin as a $1 trillion plus asset, like you cannot ignore the success and demand and principle behind it.
Totally. Yeah. And Keith and I were talking before you got on here about that very subject. And I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't think that Bitcoin is at a point where it could facilitate a lot of the things that there's no world where they're just going to disappear. Do you know what I mean? Like they're going to be part of the game. And so if you can't build in the tools for that to be at least done as it is now, if not better, then how do you expect people to adopt this? I think there's too much of a force. I get their whole shtick of saying, oh, like we have the biggest movement and all that stuff, but movements get created and they fall all the time, right? Like I don't think that that's enough to make all that happen, but time will tell.
Yeah, it's like a too big to fail thing too, potentially, right? Like, okay, it's probably never ever going to go to zero because you've got too large of a cult audience, if you will. And I mean that in the best way, right? But in the sense of I'm going to buy this asset no matter what, especially the lower it goes, the more I believe in buying a good deal behind this asset. So in my opinion, you'll never get to a point where Bitcoin can go to zero or anything like that. But you go back to that same issue of stability, where you're always going to have people's confidence change day by day. And it doesn't matter about one person with $1,000 in Bitcoin. It matters very much when you've got billions of Bitcoin and you decide to change your mood. And, that's where we see these different things happen. So I think that's what makes it so cool that, yes, it's kind of too big to fail now, which gives it more legitimacy, once again, making it more of a reason to want to invest in that philosophy. But you have to be like you, Ben. Like you got to have way more conviction to be able to say, hey, like this is never going to go to zero. This is always just going to be up. And for some people, they can hold and wait, and that's great. That's probably the best way to treat Bitcoin. But if you want to try to actively manage it and trade it, just get ready for a lot of stress and maybe not exactly a timeline that you hope for.
Appreciate that. There was one other thing that I did want to get your thoughts on, which is tomorrow is the SpaceX IPO going live. And there's been some spicy comments being thrown around about all of this phenomenon in the world of AI. And the reason I think it's relevant to you, Herwig, is because of the fact that we're talking about private markets. A lot of capital has been raised in the private markets. We've seen these companies have incredible valuations come just out of the private markets alone. And now this is finally being brought to the public. So I'm going to play a quick clip from a guy named Ed Zitron, who is making some waves over the internet right now, poo-pooing on the entire AI industries. And I want to get your reaction to this.
An IPO. So I said this on Bloomberg. I don't think regulatory bodies should let Anthropic or OpenAI go public. I think that they are both irresponsibly run companies run by craven liars. Both Dario Amodei and Sam Altman sell their products based on what they might do, theoretically, rather than what they can do. Every time anyone asks Sam Altman how this will work out on CNBC, David Faber was like, so how are you going to get around the return on investment thing? And he's like, yeah, somebody will work it out. Sammy, Clammy Sammy, this is your job. You are the AI industry. But to your greater point, I think one of them is going to try and go public. I think they're going to bull rush this thing. I think it's inevitable OpenAI files to go public. And based on some stuff I might have read recently, they sure shouldn't. They're losing too much money. Anthropic, on the other hand, is also losing just as much money. They had this, one of the most disgusting things I've seen done by these companies outside of the environmental damage, the stealing, the CSAM that Grok generated, putting all that aside, Anthropic leaking that they are profitable in the 2 months that Elon Musk discounted their compute. Do we not have an SEC anymore? Do we not have any kind of regulatory body? We certainly don't have a conscience in the Valley because everyone was like...
Your view is that they made a profit because Elon gave them a deal on their compute.
Yes, that's in the SpaceX S1. Well, specifically the May and June in Q2, Anthropic will become profitable. Because it's June now. It was not when that story came out. And mysteriously, those are the 2 months, May and June, when Elon Musk discounted Colossus 1 and 2 for Anthropic. It's just like, and what sucks is that's publicly available information. This is in the S1 for SpaceX. And people are still like, they're profitable now. It's like, yeah, you're profitable as long as you don't count the costs.
Any initial thoughts on those comments or on this phenomenon of all of these companies going public potentially this year?
Yeah, there's like so much to unpack there. I think Sam Altman on his like Y Combinator pitch for or like one of the early demos, sorry, that he did for it. I think he told a room full of investors that it was like, we're going to let the AI figure out how to make money for the for the business. No, we don't need to do that. Makes a lot of sense. AI is this very debated, polarizing topic, right? It's to me, it's just the obvious like next generation of technology. It's going to automate everything and is significantly better. It's only going to get better at most jobs that people do. There's a lot of arguments about the valuations, right, and all of that. This is classic. I'm not going to use the word bubble. I'm not here to speculate on the AI market because it really is hard to sort of sit there and say, hey, most people look at, hey, how am I using ChatGPT? Or, what is it really doing as a business? But people are not really putting together how powerful this technology is going to be in the next few years and its ability to capture value. And I think a lot of people are pricing that and more. When it comes to SpaceX, I am really curious to know how many people are making an investment decision due to, the Grok AI model versus the business of, space. And so the fact that they're all tied together makes it very difficult. I think what I can opine on without having to be like, hey, these are good bets or bad bets is that, because public markets are the way they are, and that in terms of protections, right? The stringency, the rules, these are all the things that we benefit from as market participants, are also a deterrent for private companies that want to go public. And they really only do it when they absolutely need to. And that's not really how it was supposed to be. It was more like, hey, like when you're ready to IPO, you should go IPO. It wasn't, hey, you should try to hold on to this value as much as possible in private capital markets, boost the valuation as much as possible. And then when you're ready, go to the public markets. And it seems like it's always a race to say who's got the biggest IPO. It just keeps going up and up and up. You got other companies like Stripe and other private companies that people are wondering like, hey, when are these companies ever going to go public? And also, what are the financials behind them? And, we're going to see that with OpenAI in terms of how people kind of compare Anthropic and OAI. But, I just think it's crazy that most of the time, like what I'm focused on is not these businesses, but if you look at SpaceX, like we're about to pay the highest price ever for a stock. And meanwhile, no doubt about it, there are bankers and there are early investors that are making a killing along the way that are definitely not, necessarily even prone or care about the future. And fully want to take advantage of the hype and momentum behind this company. So I would just kind of caution everybody who gets caught up in the sensationalism to realize that as one of the biggest IPOs in history or the biggest IPOs in history, there's going to be an insane amount of marketing and sensationalism around these companies because it has to in order to support these trillion-dollar valuations. Otherwise, everyone's going to wake up and say, wait a second, I'm going to buy these companies when they're actually doing in a much better position. But because they're now opening up to the public for the very first time, and because of the way the market is shaped today, right, it's kind of concentrating all of the capital into these deals. And in my world that I want to see, most of us will get access to SpaceX way before it went public, right? There are pre-IPO companies, as they call them, that have SPVs or can directly enable access, thanks to tokenization, to beneficial ownership of those businesses. There is no reason why the law, the technology, et cetera, shouldn't all catch up for us to be able to make these similar markets, especially when it comes to these massive, massive companies, right? Like, why are we not making them be accessible to all people as opposed to only the wealthy? We should be excited about forcing those companies to embrace this technology, whether they stay private or not, right? Because at least if they stay private, they can have all the things that they want to say they didn't want to do to go public, but they can get all the benefits of going public by at least creating a market around it, by creating access for it for us, not just for accredited investors, but in order to create liquidity at that size, you need the individuals, right? You need us as retail, as they like to say, to come in. And that's why I'm so bullish about RWAs as a decentralized technology. Like the more we have people on chain, the more we can act as a community and as a movement, the more we'll be able to fight these edges, these moats that TradFi has built in order to squeeze as many fees as possible out of this industry. And the fact that financial services is like one of the largest industries in the world is crazy, because people shouldn't be making that much money from access and custody and managing a spreadsheet, That's crazy. All of these prices should come down and near zero, and we as consumers should be benefiting.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Herwig, for taking the time to come on the show and give us your thoughts on tokenization. And we'll definitely have to have you on again as we continue to see all of this develop. There's some things that I think are coming up for you that I would love to hear you talk about. I think there's a conference, if I'm not mistaken, and anything else that you want to make sure that the audience knows about.
Yeah. So Tokenize This was one of the reasons I mentioned earlier that I was inspired to start the foundation, because essentially back in 2024, or even the year before, doing it digitally, I realized that there was no conference dedicated to this topic. It was either a topic at a crypto conference, on a panel, or maybe there was at best a side event talking about this topic to kind of concentrate a room. But again, we're talking about all of finance. Today, in 2 weeks, our conference has a full day on stablecoins, a full day on back office and asset managers, and really just TradFi, as we call it, coming on chain, right? How are they navigating and adopting this? And on day 3, all the other stuff, which is tokenized equities, tokenized gold, tokenized real estate, vaults, and DeFi. I mean, that's a theme throughout everything. But, honestly, I could probably fill another day of panels just because there's so many people building stuff that could go and fit on it. Now, it is very much so designed for finance professionals to come and learn about this technology, to say, hey, how is this going to impact my division or what I'm working on, or how can I help the company by being here? And it's very typically heavily attended by digital asset executives, right? The banks and the asset managers, the tokenization companies, the blockchains are there. And we try to let them talk about what's going on, how it's, how the industry is moving, and what insights people can walk away with, aside from obviously great networking. So, if you're in finance, it's really no reason for you not to be there, especially if you're in New York. But as an individual, it's probably not as much primed for you. But if you want to come and learn, like, this is the best room, without a doubt, in my mind, out of any conference around the world. I'm obviously super biased, but I also fully believe that we have the best speakers and insights that you can learn. So if you're in the New York area, shoot me a DM on Twitter. I'm happy tokenizing. And I'll see if I can get you a ticket so you can come in and learn and live it up. But this is not a crypto conference. This is truly meant to be a professional educational conference to learn from. So that's June 23rd to 25th, called Tokenize This. I'm proud to say it was actually a company that I started back in 2018. STM, behind Tokenize This, and all the media and the podcasts I mentioned, was acquired by an oracle called Redstone earlier this year. So very excited to be working with them on kind of organizing it one last time, as I then afterwards move on to the RWA Foundation full time. But Redstone is an awesome company doing great stuff in the space as an oracle, working with a lot of this trend as infrastructure for tokenization and RWA. So another cool company for anyone who's looking at potential crypto tokens to look at. They are the red token. So that's Tokenize This. And I will just say the RWA Foundation one more time. Come on over to the RWA Foundation. X account is really where we live. Crypto Twitter is who we are starting with to educate, to say, you got to learn about RWAs. You got to understand why this is the next iteration of finance, why this is a better version of crypto in many ways, taking advantage of tying in real world assets, and we try to have a good time with it. So come follow the RWA Foundation on Twitter, and that's where you'll learn about our upcoming token launch, as well as any other cool news and features that we do.
Fantastic. This here is at Happy Tokenizing. So when you see Herwig on Twitter, this is what you're looking at. And then this right here is at RWA Foundation _ the RWA Foundation. Thanks again, Herwig. Really appreciate you doing this, man. And we'll have to properly catch up one-on-one as well, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Great to meet you, man. Thank you so much.
Likewise, Ben, great to meet you. This was an awesome show. I can't wait to be back for the next one already. And Keith, we are way overdue for a catch up. I'm up in New York right now for the rest of summer, but I will be back in home base Miami.
You're in New York?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, dude, let's link up.
Let's link up. All right, you're up here. Let's do it. Thank you, everybody that tuned in and decided to listen to what I have to say. I appreciate you. I hope it was helpful. I'm happy to expand on anything with anyone, because it is truly my goal to educate the planet on this technology. So, and what's coming. So again, thank you to you both for having me on the show.
Of course,
Awesome,
man. Thank you so much. And his Twitter will be linked down below. So go show him some love and ask him any questions that you may have.
Fantastic.
Happy tokenizing, everyone.
Have a great one, man. Thank you.
Take it easy. Awesome.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, man. He's always been a super dope guy, man. It's we'll probably have on the other co-founder of the Security Token Group / Security Token Market founder, Kyle, on too. Both really, really good guys. I met Kyle, so he brought up the Launchpad, which is a really cool concept. I think there's other universities that are doing things like it now, but the Launchpad at the University of Miami it's an entrepreneurship center, right? But on campus. And lots of really interesting people have come out of that. A lot of really interesting ideas have come out of that. And when I was a freshman, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I went there often, and I ended up meeting a guy named Kyle Sonlin, who was leading the Security Token Group, and specifically the Security Token Market with Herwig. He's gone on to do other really cool things in the security token space as well. And it was crazy because we met there. He was like doing basically a consultation with me. I was there as the entrepreneur. He was there as a consultant. And it wasn't until years later, and we didn't realize this until we had known each other for quite some time. We were like, wait a minute. We met at the Launchpad. But at that point, I was actually working with him at the Security Token Group. So, but yeah, so yep, these are guys that I go back a little bit with, and just pioneers in the space. So it's really cool to have them come on the show.
Totally, man. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time until everything they're talking about becomes a lot more mainstream. Like he said, like they've just been so early. We've all been very early, right? And when you know something, you always also underestimate how long it's going to take because it's so obvious to you, right? So I think it's only a matter of time. I think he's close.
No doubt, man. Yeah, this is that era.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, even in the Chainlink community right now, are like,
"It's our time.
Let's go."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah, man. It'd be super interesting to see. I do think that he'll be part of the conversation, which is super cool. And he gave a ton of information. Everyone loved it in the chat, so we'll definitely have him on again for sure.
No doubt. Yeah, it was cool to see that you guys were enjoying that. But yeah.
Well, that's what I feel like Twitter content, sorry, not Twitter content, crypto content needs to be beyond just crypto Twitter, because crypto Twitter is like headlines dunking on each other, not a lot of substance. And then even the people that do cover this stuff on like YouTube, it's not a lot of that. It's more like purely price this, immediate price changes, which is so useless in terms of understanding what you're actually investing in. It's basically like mental masturbation in terms of like, I'm making a good decision here, right? Like it's not actually useful.
100%. It's tough, man, because it's easier to get attention that way. A lot of people that are either newer to the space, like let me really put it out, like TikTok finance, right? People got, I'm just gonna put it out there, XRP, right, off of TikTok finance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, I need to learn more about this, right? Like I need to actually understand this.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go to YouTube.
And
And
what do
then
we
the
see?
YouTube people, like, basically just TikTokified
The same shit, just longer.
all of that.
Mhm.
And they saw the demand for it, so they kept coming in, they kept coming in, they kept coming in. And then there's like a ton of XRP creators and
Totally.
Ripple creators on YouTube that are really just like TikTok finance and just like hyping up the future potential price of it all. And some of those people were on YouTube before that all happened, to be clear, but it's interesting to see that culture around it all.
Totally. I think that there will be more of an understanding of that as time goes on in terms of the things that do matter. And I think that there'll be an appetite for it. I also don't really think that the people that have come in at this time, like you're saying, they even understand that concept yet. Because also, where were they going to go to get this? Like, that's also case in point. He was saying that you guys used to run a podcast. They don't run anymore because there weren't eyeballs.
Totally.
Right. Unfortunately, the stuff you actually should be watching is a little harder to package until it's more of a sure thing. Like, there will be this moment in time where mass amounts of people from traditional finance just start watching our show randomly because they're told that they should now. Right. And that will happen. But being in there when you're not getting the eyeballs you want is a tough thing to stay in. So I get why people leave, but we need more people like him talking.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, man. The Security Token show, it was a really, really cool thing. Basically, we had different segments of the Security Token show. I did the markets update for quite some time.
Sweet.
And we had like it was like we were clearly there, but it was like, only people watching this were the other people down the street, you know what I mean, doing the same thing.
Totally. Yeah, and that's the nature of being early, right? It's yeah. So it'll be really cool to see the whole ecosystem, everything grow. Because I was saying this to my mom before we got on the call too. I was like, she's like, oh, she's freaking about the markets and stuff. I'm like, okay, I understand that everything's in the shitter right now, but a lot of the things that he was saying back in like 2017, 2018, and we all were being like, this may happen, or we think this is going to happen. And all those things have happened and more, right? Like, if anything, you should be more bullish today than ever. Like the thesis hasn't changed. If anything, it's been validated, but our emotions are stronger than that. So yeah, it's a cool time.
No doubt. Brian, welcome in. Welcome in. Yeah, you are a little bit late, but that's, late's better than never. Let me tell you every time.
100%.
We had a really, really cool conversation with Herwig. And I'd highly recommend that anyone who missed any of that to hit the link in the description and subscribe to the highlights channel. And if not that, definitely also rewind this whole thing. But definitely subscribe to the highlights channel for more efficiency. It'll also give you something that you can share. You saw, I think, What Is Sale already talking about that. Can't wait to share this, the highlights from this conversation with someone so that they can start to understand what is this whole tokenization thing about, because everyone's freaking out about it. And I'm sure same thing with stablecoins last year. Everyone was like, what is a stablecoin? Right? A lot of people are asking, okay, but what is tokenization? Why does this actually matter? And I think this will be a great breakdown of that. So be sure to hit that link in the description to subscribe to the highlights channel. But yeah, so it's super fascinating to think about the culture of all this stuff, man. Honestly, it's like a lot of people are coming in and wanting to just make money now. Another thing I was going to say about like the whole YouTubers kind of like just capturing people's imagination of like basically like what's life going to be like when this token goes to this crazy price, and what are all the different things that are going to make it get there. It kind of requires that you cycle through people, to be honest, because what happens is you hear that every day for a year or two,
Yeah,
and nothing happens, and you're like, why am I watching this anymore?
totally fair.
So you've got to get the new people in the door, and then they'll stick around for a year or two at least, and then
But they won't come in unless there's a reason to, right? And typically that is the price. And then also a lot of previous creators, they were just purely crypto creators. And so then if you don't have a relationship with the person, then as soon as the price goes, so too does the audience. Right. Which is why from this show, we've been very intentional about talking about a bunch of other things so that when crypto does run, there's still a reason to hang out after you found us. Right. And that's also everyone in the chat. You've done awesome things to help build that community with us. So that way, when these things do happen and people do start knowing that they should care, that they come and then they hang out regardless. But no, you're totally right. Like you churn through people. But I also think that the strategy on the messaging for a lot of this stuff could have been done better. Like when you just lead with price go up, and that's even like the projects themselves are pretty guilty of that because it's a universal language, right? Everyone cares about money because it dictates our entire existence right now. And so even like the leaders of these projects, they often talk about like going to the moon and all this stuff, right? So
Yeah,
that as soon as that doesn't happen, if that's the only thing that brought them here and there's no relationship, of course they're going to bounce.
That's so true. Even like the infrastructure companies, like the payments companies and so on, it's like, we're going to the moon, you know, and the price goes up.
It's like your buddies that you only drink with, right? And if you stop drinking, then you don't have a reason to hang out anymore.
Love that.
Right? So then it's like, oh, we're not making money. Why am I talking to these people?
Absolutely, man. But yeah, with that, no, we appreciate you, Sam. I am always. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. I was just looking at the participants today. I'm like, man, we got a nice amount of people that are in here, and some of you guys are definitely very quiet because you've been around for the past few episodes, right? We've had numbers like this, and you don't see 100 people commenting, but we appreciate every single one of y'all that are hanging out.
Yeah, it'll happen in time. Also, always feel free and welcome to talk. Everyone in the chat's always super nice, so always feel free to contribute. As you saw, if you scroll back to the beginning, like it's cool how everyone like knows each other.
Yeah, dude.
That's the coolest part, man.
Yeah, Robbie is not in the house today, and you guys noticed that. That's so awesome. I got a message from them yesterday saying that they'll be out for the next week or so. So I'll make sure that the message that you guys were missing Robbie will get passed on.
Oh yeah.
But yep. I've got some news.
Hit me with the news. Cool, we do actually have it.
Let's go. So this one is interesting, man. Your country has some interesting things going on this month or so. So apparently there was a pilot who flew for 17 years on a fake license.
It's like that Catch Me If You Can guy.
What's that? I haven't seen that.
You've never seen that movie?
No.
Bro. He's got an interesting last name. It's like Abagnale, Frank Abagnale. It's DiCaprio's in it, and essentially that's the same premise. Like he pretended to be a pilot, and like I don't think he was really flying the plane. He was like the extra pilot typically. But it's a very, very popular movie. I definitely recommend watching it.
Word. Yeah. So real life Frank Abagnale, a former Air Canada pilot, was arrested for flying with a fake license. He successfully operated commercial airplanes throughout that time. The story has now gone viral over a long incident-free record despite the forged credentials. Online reactions are including jokes calling for him to receive a real license instead of being arrested. So yeah, this is fascinating.
That's scroll down. That's
yes.
him, yeah. Bro, 17 years is absurd.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, at that point, for real, like, what are we doing? Like
at this point, like he's probably good.
That's wild. So next piece that I had here was Claude Core launching. So this is a 1-year paid fellowship for 1,000 early career people. This puts fellows in U.S. nonprofits to build AI tools with Claude fully funded. There are partners here being CodePath and Social Finance to boost AI skills in mission-driven organizations. And this aims to drive real-world AI impact in nonprofits while training next-gen talent. Have you seen anything about this?
It's the first I'm hearing of it, but it's kind of shocking to me that this wasn't like a earlier part of their messaging strategy. You know what I mean? Like they're finally realizing, oh crap, we should probably tell them how this is going to improve the world instead of just saying it. You know what I mean? And so I guess this obviously is a step in that direction.
Yeah. Reaching out to the early career professionals was something that I thought was interesting because these are the people that are probably the most upset. So yeah, give them a.
But 1,000 is a drop in the bucket.
That's very true.
We'll see, but
it's not even a graduating class.
No, man. So we'll see. But did you hear that? So brand got their private pilot's license in March.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
That's super cool. I definitely want to. I want to do that with my life at some point too. So that's very cool, man.
We appreciate
Yeah,
you, Thomas.
yeah.
And that's also why our show isn't bigger, is because there's not a show that's really like this. And so the problem is, like, for YouTube's job is there's not really lookalike audiences to suggest our stuff to, but that will happen over time.
Totally. Yeah, shout out to you, Thomas. We appreciate you. Next piece, Tether leading a $1.4 billion robotics investment. They have led a Series C for a German firm called Neura Robotics, one of the largest humanoid robot funding rounds. Investors include NVIDIA, Amazon, Qualcomm, Bosch, and others. This integrates Tether wallets and Edge AI so that robots can transact, earn, and operate autonomously in the machine economy. Whoa.
Wait, so I'm confused. Why would they have to? Like, are they paying humans or paying other robots?
Paying other robots.
Interesting.
That's what I'm imagining, at least. Because that's, I mean, for me, the vision was like the Tesla is the easier one for me. It's like, all right, so you've got a Tesla. I own it as a human, but I'm gonna lease it out like they've said that they're gonna do. It runs around, does routes, drops off food, picks up people, whatever. But it also needs to charge in between all that. So if I don't own the charging station,
got it,
then somebody else
How do
is
you
going to
pay
need to
for
get
it?
paid for that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's kind
Makes
of
total sense.
Yep. But I'm sure there's plenty of other ways in which that could actually look. So it would be very interesting to see how that goes. And it's Tether's going to be a pretty interesting company in the future here. When you really think about it. I mean, they're super profitable as they stand as a stablecoin issuer, but it's like with all of that profit, I mean, if they're able to invest into robotics and AI and agentic commerce, like Tether could be, I mean, in a lot of ways, they already are like a Visa, MasterCard, kind of thing, but even more important than that.
Do you think they'll go public?
Oof. They probably won't have to.
Yeah, I see an article about this. Fundraising retreat stokes speculation, is an IPO ever coming? So we'll see if they do they even have to. That's a great question.
Very, very, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, Circle's public, so I guess they've set the precedent for a stablecoin issuer being public. So it's possible, and it's been done. Next piece, the United Kingdom. I don't know what's going on over there. They're demanding device nudity scanning. Basically, the UK government is trying to order Apple, Google, and tech firms to add on-device nudity detection on all kids' phones and tablets. Apparently, there's a 3-month voluntary period before forced compliance via new laws and possible CEO jail time. The aim here is to block children from sending, receiving nude images and videos before they're shared. Privacy groups warn it breaks end-to-end encryption and risks mass surveillance.
There's a lot of things like that getting passed that on the surface, of course, like you want to stop what they're saying they're trying to stop. But of course, you always got to question like how they're going about doing it and how can that be misused as well. So I do think that like technology has been pretty, or the current version of technology has been pretty detrimental to the development of a lot of young people. And I think things like that have been a major issue. But is that the best way to solve it? I think that more open debate should be on the table.
Yeah, it seems like the UK is leading the charge in all of this. Them in Australia is doing some stuff too. It's very interesting how they're kind of like, I mean, I guess they have roots to each other. So it kind of, I mean, so does the US. But it just feels like they're both kind of moving in lockstep with this idea around digital ID and like, surveillance and 15-minute cities and like all this stuff that maybe it's just weird because I'm saying these 15 minutes, like it's all becoming real, especially in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw it in 2020 there as well. Let's be clear. I was talking to someone who's from Australia, and they were telling me about what happened in 2020 and how that lasted like 2 years for them, where there was very strict lockdowns for like 2 years of on and offness, but still like going back into it. I'm like, that's kind of crazy, man.
Yeah, that's also why Canada was like that as well. Our lockdowns were crazy. And then when you factor into how our media is governed, the state of our country mentally and politically makes a ton of sense.
Mm.
And so I think big reason why you may not be seeing things as fast in the States is a lot like Jeff has said, that layer of the states having more individual powers and rights does create an additional layer of getting things passed. Whereas Canada, it's not really like that. Like they were able to get people just to cross the floor, and then now they're pushing all these things into law. Like How Are You Now had said that Canada, and I called that. I knew that they're going to try to ban social media for kids under 16. And in a vacuum, I don't think that that's a bad decision. I'm just always skeptical of how it's done, and then the kind of power that gives to be potentially abused, even if it's down the line, right? These are things you have to be considered. But yeah, it's all trending in that direction.
Yeah, and even that, I mean, that's crazy, right? Like, and you put it perfectly. How are you now? Like, let the parents be parents. How could you possibly be making that decision for parents? I don't think that that's right at all. But hey,
That's kind of Canada's MO. It's like we'll push something through with an altruistic angle, and we'll get a herd of people to fight for it. So that way, if anybody says anything to the contrary, like I was talking about a lot of these bills 4 or 5 years ago, and they blew up on TikTok, but I also got so much hate. I was like, either this is coordinated or they've done their job really well. Either way, the end impact is the same, where people don't feel like they can talk because you just get overwhelmed. And then, like, especially with how much people follow, and that was proven by how a lot of the lockdowns took place, where people just complied, which, whatever, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But that compliance doesn't stop just from the beacon of authority. It also is influenced by other psychological biases too, in terms of, like, let's say, like the herd effect, right? Where even if someone were to initially hear the words that I'm saying and they were to agree with me and be like, yeah, that's messed up. If they go to the comment section and see that the overall all consensus is against me, they're so much more likely to go with that.
Mhm.
And so then that creates like we self-govern ourselves for whatever it is that they're trying to do. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it all ends up.
Totally, man. Next piece here, a very culturally relevant moment. Today is the day of the FIFA World Cup 2026 launch. So the first 48 team tournament being co-hosted by the USA, good old Canada, and Mexico.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get roasted on the global scale for our facilities here in Toronto. We are just not equipped to have this many people here at the main soccer pitch. I'm sure they're probably playing at multiple locations in Toronto. I'm not entirely sure. But the one that I'm referring to, I went to a prelim game there, and I was just looking around, and I'm like, they can't even deal with this many people. And it was maybe at like 40% of capacity. I'm like, people are going to have a very bad experience here, and they've spent a ton of money. We're going to get roasted on Twitter and stuff like that. I can guarantee it.
Wow. Very interesting, man. So, yep, it's going down. This is
Crypto Connection, Keith. Do you know who one of the main sponsors is for the whole tournament?
Is it Chainlink?
Coinbase.
Coinbase. Okay. Word. So I'm in New York, and I was watching the Knicks game last night too, and they had an ad spot in the middle of the game.
Wow,
like, man, that's big time.
They're really trying to normalize that, like getting it common knowledge.
Yeah, and like I still find this fascinating. I feel like we've talked about this already on the show, but like Spurs with the ledger on their jersey, I'm like, bro, like that's crazy. Like tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people watch the NBA, Spurs NBA Finals, ledger on their jersey. Nobody knows what the ledger is.
Yeah, 100%. But if they've seen it a bunch of times, then they're gonna be a lot more receptive to what it is, right?
100%. It's like it has to be a future priming, because like
Totally.
and it's and to think that it's profitable or at least worthy of investing in that kind of a thing is fascinating to me.
Well, the implied endorsement by your team is such a big deal. For a lot of people that are sports fans, especially in America, their allegiance to a sports team is a good chunk of their personality.
True.
Right? So that implied association or endorsement is such a big deal. And then also, how many people are bandwagon jumpers, right? Where if the team is in the finals, they start riding with them, right? And now they got Wemby too. The next gen of NBA fans are attached to that.
That's
Like
so wild. Yeah.
If I was to bet on it, if I was going to do that partnership with any team, I'd probably pick them because of just simply the association with Wemby.
Right.
Like think of the long tail of super fans that get created. Every new basketball fan, when they come in, what do? They pick a guy. It's going to be him for a lot of kids.
Right. Yeah.
And Hull said, good luck to Toronto drivers. Oh my, I'm not leaving my apartment the whole time. I'm walking everywhere. I told my family, I'm like, unless you're coming to me, which I don't recommend, I will not be seeing you.
That's fair, man. Yeah, I'm excited to see some of that action because I was here in New York last night after that 30-point comeback.
Crazy.
And that was pretty intense in the streets.
I should have worn my Knicks jersey, man.
Oh, man. I wasn't like super in the heat of it. I was more like lower Manhattan area. But it was still pretty nuts. So
yeah, crazy. I still think it'll go to at least 6 games, though.
They got to get that money, man.
They got to milk that money, man. And go ahead.
Well, we were watching the game last night, and like it was like the final like minute of the game, and every play they stopped
for an ad
to run an ad, and I'm like, bro, they're scared that this is the second to last game.
I think it'll go to 6. I also the next one's in San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
So they're not gonna. They want to win at home, I'm sure.
For sure, bro. But yeah, so be fun to continue to watch. Next piece. What else were you gonna say?
Nothing. I just think that it's yeah, if it's in these stages where they communicate to the masses, I can't think it's too far away before they start. Like all these pieces, man. Like we got all the things we're referring to for like the sports normies. We've got the people that just blindly follow Fox. They've been getting sprinkled this stuff for months now. Like I think there's going to be a big day, and it might be the 250 thing. Who knows? But it's like there's been so much priming being done, and it all like. Go ahead.
There is a connection there too, a little bit. Like,
go ahead.
I don't know who it was, but there was another ad that had. It's like the NBA. They're partnered with the NBA for the 250th celebration. But
who is?
Keep going.
The U.S.
The 250th foundation. It's like a whole foundation.
Got it. And NBA is one of the partners.
Yes.
Wow. Interesting.
So it is there in that regard. There's a connection there.
Bro, fascinating. It's it'll be so cool to watch it all happen and take place, and yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. Bread and circus, yes. You're muted, Keith.
NBA to celebrate 250th birthday of the United States throughout 2026. So a year-long NBA initiative.
Wow.
So, yeah.
The World Cup thing is unbelievably huge too. Like for Coinbase, I can only imagine what that would cost.
True, dude.
And then if you think about anybody who's investing in the World Cup, you have to have an international business, right? And then that many eyeballs has to make sense for you, right? The lifetime value of a customer. And so for Coinbase to do that now, they have to know something is coming to make that economically viable. They have to. That's also why like these shit, like these people play rigged games, man. Like same with Mr. Beast and stuff. That's why I still am very long on Ethereum.
Right.
With that bank that he bought and the $200 million partnership, like you're telling me that they're not going to figure a way for at least temporarily that to work out? I don't know, man. I think that'll be connected to video games quite a bit, like what the kids do, whether that's GTA, who knows? But yeah, I think a lot of this stuff will be seen as so obvious very soon, but we've been blinded by our emotion.
Yeah. Tom Lee also the other day doubling down, right? Making another big purchase.
Billions, right?
I'm like, what is going on?
Bro, he's down so much.
These guys know something, man.
Totally, dude. I don't know. Again, this is never financial advice. I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me ever. But I'm personally long on Ethereum.
Right. Next piece we had here, MasterCard launching agent pay for machines. So MasterCard has introduced agent pay for AI agents and devices to make fast autonomous payments. This enables high frequency, low value, always on transactions across cards, accounts, and stablecoins. This shifts commerce to machine speed automated model with built-in trust and governance. So they are preparing for the AI agentic commerce wave here.
And that's going to be so huge because a lot of money doesn't get spent because of humans being involved, right? Where they think, they hum and haw on the decision, and then even just life pops up, right?
True.
Because there's friction to making the purchase. And then in turn, life continues to pop up, and then you may go spend the money in other places or not spend it, period. Where that's no longer part of the equation. Like, think about the speed of the flow of money that will happen.
Very true, man. Yeah. It's all happening so fast too. Like I feel like agentic commerce was a term that became something that tech people were talking about maybe 6 months ago, maybe. And now it feels like we might be about to like really start to see that already.
For Raul Paul's case, I certainly hope so. Bro, he's been getting torched. Like, I've never seen anything like this, dude. Like, if you go look through the comment section on his YouTube videos, bro.
That's crazy.
Dude, it's crazy. Well, I think that's inevitable when you speak with the level of conviction that he did, right? And then about the banana zone, like people are roasting for the banana zone thing. I like Raul. I think he's awesome. But yeah, his comment section is like a battlefield, and he's outnumbered, man. You might find like one happy comment in there, maybe. It's like
I'm peeping now with Raul, the top comment. Raul Pal is a case study in brand destruction.
82
7
likes.
days ago.
But it's crazy how people will come back just to hate.
Yeah,
that's fascinating to me. If I decided that somebody was an idiot, like they're saying that he is, I don't think that, but they're saying that, then I would just go somewhere else.
Yo, this is wild, bro.
It's insane, right?
Raul Pal, how about a few words regarding your projection that BTC will peak in May 2026? Can you be honest and admit that you were wrong? Be careful about his recommendations. A few years ago, he showed Luna heavily. Now he doesn't even talk about it. Win banana. Yeah,
it's
that's
so
crazy.
overwhelming, man.
That's crazy.
But when things turn around, which I still think they will, then that's a lot of ammunition for him to like clap back too. Right?
He's gonna have a field day.
Yeah. And I think that across a long enough time horizon, the problem is like why I'll always try to avoid time-based predictions because that's so hard to get right.
My man Ben be like, soon.
Yeah. Or I try to go like overly long than I think I have to, just simply because there's so many variables you can't control. And also that bias of when you're so close to the tech and you know or you think it's inevitable, then you're going to dramatically underestimate the time in which it takes for the world to catch up to that and the systems to catch up to that.
Super fair. So as we talk about what's going on in culture, it's time for us to move into that section of the show. Let's talk about some memes.
Hit me with.
Fantastic. Soon to be friend of the pod, your friend Somi is talking about how stablecoins are outgrowing Bitcoin. So let's hear what he had to say about that.
Newsflash, Bitcoin's growth rate for the past 5 years is only 9% per year. 9. Do you want to know what stablecoin growth is in crypto? 40. What's a bigger number, friends? 9 or 40? Exactly. That's compounded. Okay. Stablecoins are blowing the roof off. Okay. They are. So what do Bitcoin maxis want to do? They go, no. Michael Saylor, I know you're running an 850,000 BTC treasury Ponzi, but anyway, would anybody want to buy some Bitcoin? Don't worry, it's definitely going to $1 million next year. Okay, dude. Okay, yeah, we don't believe it anymore, right?
What are any initial thoughts on that one?
I do think that the numbers associated with stablecoins are pretty tough to ignore, and I do think that definitely a lot of people who were very bullish on Bitcoin. I think that Kathy Woods included in this, where she thought that the peer-to-peer transacting, a lot more of it would take place via Bitcoin, and that's just not proven to be the case. And stablecoins have taken up almost all of that, right? And so that's a pretty big part of the equation.
Yes. Yeah. Peer-to-peer payments is tough business for Bitcoin. I mean, look, like it's not even like it's not possible. It's just like no one knows about the Lightning Network, right? People are not using Bitcoin, they're buying it, and as you get Wall Street more and more involved, that's just going to be more and more the case, probably, the way I see it.
That was another thing that I asked Jeff, and I didn't get maybe didn't have enough time, but I said to him, like, okay, your thesis to take place, you're saying that like there's no way that it can be stopped. But if a lot of this is based off of perception that then leads to behavior that creates this outcome, the very centralized entities are tied to how almost everyone dictates their perception, right? So Bitcoin may current day have the strongest brand equity, but the people that determine brand equity in terms of the algorithms that distribute content would probably not stand to benefit from that reality, right? So it's like, if anything, we've seen how possible psyops are, and how, if anything, social media exacerbates that tenfold. I'm hard pressed to believe that they would just let that happen, but who knows? We will see. I also do think that maybe, to play devil's advocate to myself, is that Jeff is saying that this massive push for stablecoins is because they know that that's happening, or it's going to happen regardless, and so they're doing everything they can to keep it in their system.
Totally.
So we'll see.
Yep. Next piece here, CoffeeZilla, talking about the missing Lego scandal.
I keep hearing about the headline, but I've not done any of my research onto it or into it.
So I unfortunately also did not really fully see what's going on here, but Brian Mansell's family Lego Star Wars collection has become disputed after a bricks and minifigs franchise ownership change. And CoffeeZilla is investigating this. So apparently there was a collection that was meant to help fund a family education, but large parts of it were not returned or paid out. And CoffeeZilla is arguing that bricks and minifigs should make Brian whole instead of fighting him with an aggressive lawsuit.
Interesting.
So I don't know if I'm going to play the clip, because I also don't really know too much about what exactly is going on here. And I would want to provide more context if we were going to go that deep into it. But the next piece that I have is about Tom Luongo on stablecoin savings. He is saying that the Clarity Act may block direct passive yield on stablecoin backed by treasury bills. He argues that stablecoin issuers could still offer incentives if they lock up their savings for a set time. And Luongo, he also said that, go ahead.
I was going to help you out. It says stablecoin savings may start looking more like CDs, certificates of deposit, where yield comes from time locked money.
As far as the Clarity Act and the yield is concerned for Americans, they're not going to be able to get direct yield as a passive savings, passive yield off of the T-bill that backs those backs those stable coins. That's what the banks are arguing for. But if you read the final language very carefully, they will be able to offer incentives for your savings. You will be able to time lock your stake, your stablecoin savings. Now that gets us out of zero time money. That's important, because that's what interest is supposed to fucking be, which is you lock your money up for a certain amount of time in order to forego the use of it, to give it to somebody else to go do something with. the old system of paying paying on savings, okay, is with zero time, with zero time lockup, is the freaking fiat Ponzi system. Okay, you take that away and you say, okay, look, if you want that, you have to forego your money for a certain amount of time. And if it's like 3 months, 6 months, basically all these stable coins are going to become the savings coin, the savings, the stable coin savings are going to look like CDs. Okay, that's what staking is.
Keith, how do you feel? You're muted.
Yeah. So the other like nuanced thing about it is, I mean, he didn't. Yeah, I mean, he said it properly, but so the Clarity Act conversation is rewards, and not necessarily from the stablecoin issuer itself. Doesn't have to be that. It could be though.
It's like a reward.
Yeah.
Do you remember that trend?
No, what's that?
It's the stupid TikTok trend where like I think it's from Django, the sound was, where it was like, it's like a reward. People just made a lot of stupid TikToks about it. But yeah, that was a very popular one for a while. But did you have anything else to add on that specific subject?
No, just like the idea being, can the Coinbases of the world basically pay yield on stablecoins for certain behavior on the platform versus the issuer of the stablecoin itself, right? But them also being able to potentially pay rewards for certain types of activities, which is important because the stablecoin issuer could then directly compete with the bank, which would be much more scary than just Coinbase being able to compete with the bank, because Coinbase has similar infrastructure costs in terms of having to navigate a massive platform, having other lines of business that they do, such as custody and all these other things, right? So the competition between Coinbase and JP Morgan is not as like it's more even versus the stablecoin issuer, bro. Like
almost no overhead. They could offer things
Yeah.
that would be impossible for other alternatives to offer, making it an obvious choice for consumers.
Exactly. So yeah, that's all in that piece. Tom Luongo also had some other statements that he made about how Bitcoin has changed. And Tom Luongo is, by the way, he is the newsletter editor at Newsmax Media. So he's over there. Let me play you this next clip.
You guys have to realize that Bitcoin has become it's not what we originally as decentralizers, as libertarians or whatever we want to call ourselves. It ain't that anymore, and it hasn't been that for a little while, and it still has the ability to enforce private property, but it's going to be within a dollar framework. Okay. And I've been saying this for a long time, and I get a lot of shit from Bitcoiners about it. But read the room and understand that that's where it is. So let's now get past the first grade ideological fights of, oh my God, we're the goodies because we believe we're against government and against fiat money and all this blah, blah, blah. We're like, let's get beyond that. We're now leveling up into a world where the monetary system is changing. The way we fund the government is changing. Everything is changing. And Bitcoin has a very, very important role to play in that. And again, certain Bitcoiners get this, and I appreciate that they get it, and they see it as a step. And I also get that they see it as a step towards eventual Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, maybe. Okay, the jury is out on that until we get there. And if it happens before I die and Bitcoin wins, I'll be like, oh yeah, I was wrong, and I'll have no problem saying that. But until we get there, there are many, 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 many steps along the way. Unless we get there, let's make it abundantly obvious. Okay, all that's to say the following.
Yeah, I think that's not something that Bitcoin maximalists will like to hear, but that's more in line with where I would stand as well. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to dig deeper into that conversation with him about it all. because in reality, I mean, from the surface level, I think that this is very like, I don't know, like you have to convince, and not even just like convince people, but you have to completely shatter a lot of people's worldview, right? It's kind of the way that I look at this for Bitcoin to be the standard.
And do you have the ability to do that? Like the parts, the tools. Do people don't That's why, like, realistically, if you're thinking about this stuff, you should be talking to people that deal with like PR, man, right? Like movements, because that's really what it has to be done here at scale. And then also, as much as you're saying like people love the fact that Bitcoin is decentralized, that also does create some complications in terms of not having a unified message, right? Because then if something is one thing, but it's so many different things, how do you expect everyone to understand?
It's kind of funny, like, because I was gonna say the white paper, and then it just made me immediately think of like religious texts
Mhm.
and how no matter what, you still have several denominations
Mm,
of every single religion,
that's
right?
I think that's a very fair comparison.
And they fight and they literally kill each other throughout history. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And hopefully that obviously never comes to be a reality within the Bitcoin religion. But yeah, I think that's a totally fair comparison. And I do think that even Saylor had basically said that that Satoshi is what's the exact word that he said? Mythical figure. I can't remember I don't want to misquote him. But that's yeah, we'll see if there is much as enough of a critical mass as Bitcoiners believe that there is, or it'll happen that way fast enough. It'll be super interesting to see. I think personally, again, I still stand at the point where I think it'll play a major role in terms of like even of a value layer of maybe even the entire world of like that's where value is stored. But for everything else and how complex the world is, I don't know if it will be able to facilitate that. And maybe they're saying that you can just strong arm that into a reality. I don't know. There's a lot of people who have a lot of power.
Totally. We got a super chat from
Oh.
Greech 3215.
Thank you, Greech.
Yes.
What did Greech say?
Greech said, I am a landscaper, son of immigrants, and have been listening and following for over a year now. Thank you for making knowledge accessible that this world gatekeeps from us.
Let's go.
You
Keith.
guys changed my life. I work hard with purpose now.
Hell yeah. I got tingles hearing that. That's
crazy.
amazing. That's awesome. That's super cool. That's ultimately, I'd say, the goal of the show. And obviously the goal on Keith's channel is to give people the tools. Because I think people are capable of so much more than they realize, but they just have lost hope or belief in the value of information. Right? Because when everyone that they see on their screen is getting rich overnight, why would they work hard? Right? It's a hard thing to sell, right? That there's value in information. And if you've not seen it immediately in your face, it's all just BS. So that's super cool to hear. And I think that amazing things are going to continue to find their way to you because of that belief system. But I'll throw it over to you, Keith.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like when you're looking at the people blowing up on your screen, they very rarely ever talk about like what they were consuming.
Mm.
And I think that's something that you and I can actually do very actively, right? In fact, we're working on something that will allow people to get access to some of the things that we're consuming, and I think that that'll be super powerful as far as like bringing you guys on the journey as we continue to learn things as well, and even things if we look back through a catalog of like what are the things we've consumed. But I know you've got incredible resources around all of that as well.
Totally. Yeah. And we'll definitely figure out ways to give that to people at different tiers of access. And we also had a question, do you guys have a private community or Discord? We're actually getting a Discord built out right now. So that will probably be live. I don't want to over promise, under deliver. I'd say give us some time, maybe weeks. I don't know how long that stuff normally takes. I've never done it, so I don't want to talk out of turn. But that's definitely something we will be building. And Keith, things that I thought about there was one, all these people that are popping up that are shown as success. I think another thing that we need to stress on this show is that money does not mean success, especially in today's world. Because there's a lot of people that I would deem very unsuccessful that are financially successful. Right. And so I think that's really the differentiation, is that especially with now how the current day money system wasn't equipped for like the value that gets accrued to the internet innovations. right? So like you can get lucky or you can run a scam and then you make enough money fast enough where you're now rich and you'll never have to worry about money again in your life. But that's like a pocket in time. It doesn't necessarily mean you're good. Do you know what I'm saying?
Very real.
And so that happens all the time. Most people that you're hearing talking about this and like projecting confidence, they're full of shit, but they're in a Ponzi scheme that they don't know they're in. Right? Even content creation has largely become that.
Yeah.
That's always been my gripe, especially with short form content, is because I saw that I always put so much effort into trying to educate people and give them the sauce in my long form content. And I just saw that was going to get deteriorated to nothing. And it happened. Right. So that's awesome. And then the other point that you mentioned, Keith, just to finish it off, is that with access to everything, that taste in terms of what is worth consuming is so valuable. Like it's almost everything. When you develop the skill and the ability to self-determine signal from noise, the world opens wide up. Because I don't spend any time listening to people who are full of shit more often than not, right? Like obviously no one's perfect at this. I definitely do sometimes, but way less than most people.
Totally. Yep. So huge shout out to you, Greech. We really, really do appreciate that. You could have left it as a normal comment, but I when I saw this, I thought to myself, it actually means so much more because I know that you mean it.
Totally. You wouldn't pay for it if not. So that's freaking awesome. And
yeah.
That's awesome. Like that made me feel super good reading that, and I hope you're doing freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Or hearing that. I didn't read it. Hearing it.
But next piece that we had here was Scott Pelley, old school reporter here for CBS, apparently was fired after 37 years following significant leadership changes in the organization. And Pelley has now publicly criticized the new management for alleged editorial interference and professional incompetence. So let's hear some of his words about this. This is, in the US, one of the biggest. Like, have you seen this guy's face before?
I had seen him on, I couldn't have told you this guy's name, but I've definitely seen him.
I thought to myself, I'm like, that's kind of messed up. Like, because I know Andrew Ross Sorkin so well, but I guess he's my generation's
different
kind of guy.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's just a generational thing.
Yeah. Because I was like literally ragging on somebody. I think I was like, how do you not know Andrew Ross Sorkin's name or somebody? And I was like,
yeah. I'm also a big face person. Like if I see someone's face, I know who they are. I can tell you where I met them, how I know them, all this stuff. But names, I'm trying to get better at.
Yeah, let's hear what you had to say.
No one saw the Black Thursday massacre coming. This is our entire senior staff. People beloved. Tanya Simon, our executive producer, she's the boss. And this was her triumph. She's the first woman ever to be executive producer of 60 Minutes. And she concluded this season with a growth in our audience of 9%, which is unheard of in broadcast television, and a growth in our online presence of 190%. Last season, we had 2.5 billion views. The very last thing that the previous owner
That's not that good.
did was pay.
You said 2.5 billion views in what time frame was it?
I think he said last year, right? Did I hear that?
Yeah, but I guess it's also kind of different.
Meaning?
Like if it's on TV.
I thought you were talking about social media.
I was thinking he was talking on TV.
Okay. Can you repeat that part? I may have missed
and 90%. Last season, we had 2.5 billion views.
I think you're right.
The very last thing that the previous ownership did was pay a multi-million-dollar bribe to the president to settle this frivolous, ridiculous lawsuit. And very shortly after that, somehow the Trump administration approved the sale. So that lawsuit against 60 Minutes had caused a great deal of concern in 60 Minutes. Paying the bribe broke our hearts. No lawyer thought that was necessary. There was a thumb on the scale for the president's version of events that I felt was a level of political influence that I had never seen in 37 years at CBS News.
President Trump reacted to your being fired.
Did he?
He went on a podcast and called you a stiff.
I'm surprised
And he
that
also-
the president of the United States would bother to notice, but okay. Please tell me. I'm not aware of this.
He also said you were part of this gang of stupid, crooked people that don't care about your country.
Stupid, I can take that. Stiff, yeah, probably. Don't care about the country. I've never worn the uniform, but I've been in combat for this country in Afghanistan and Iraq, Kuwait, been shot at, spent nights in foxholes filling up with water in the desert. I'm not aware that the President of the United States has ever done any of those things for his country. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You become a journalist because you love the First Amendment. You become a journalist because you love the country. And while all the other descriptions that the president used about me might be applicable, not that one.
Wow.
People are going to eat that up.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that was well presented. Definitely makes you feel some stuff, and it seemed sincere.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, that was certainly moving for me. I'm not gonna lie, because I mean, we've definitely seen a shift in the relationship that the media has with the government in the past year and a half.
Yes.
It's undeniable as a viewer. So to hear from the inside, how he feels about it is certainly interesting, to say the least. But also, right, like the responses to the words that are being thrown at him, right? I think it also paints a picture of what's really going on at all times.
Yes.
And so I guess I can just leave it there, but yeah.
No, I think you nailed it. I think that's one of my least favorite things as to where media has gone, and certain people have played a very large role in that, where when top down, the example is being set that you solve your problems by attacking the individual and doing low blows and things of that nature. And that's how discourse takes place. Like I don't think that's constructive to legitimately anything, but people follow an example that gets set. And I think that's trickled down into how we interact with each other on a day-to-day basis. And also, how do you expect, like, we complain about young people not having manners and things of this nature. Like, how would they? How in the world, growing up in the world that they've done, in the media environment that they've grown up in, seeing the leaders of these nations or nation talking like that, it's like, how else do you expect that to go? I do also think that why this will pop so much, I think that soundbite will continue to echo, is because people have been looking for a rallying cry. And that's like stuff that I've always mentioned to you, Keith, is like, where is the face or the soundbite in which I can echo, right? And ironically, because person that he's talking about was so good at that, you need something like that to happen for that to feel like you have any opportunity to defend yourself. Right? So yeah, that episode is on the New York Times main channel, and that thing in the last, like, I think it was only posted a day or two ago, and it has millions of views.
Wow.
That's why I figured it was definitely something worth discussing. I'm trying to find their channel right here. Yeah, it was posted, let's see here.
June 7th.
June 7th. Okay, how long was that? A few days ago?
4 days, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So 2.1 million, 4 days. And who knows how much, that clip, for instance.
Well, For context, for comparison, on that very show, it's cooking everything else close to it. Like their episode from 2 weeks ago to this day had Nicolas Cage on, so a big name, only had 159,000 views.
Wow.
So that's a orders of magnitude difference, right?
Even Tucker Carlson, which this all reminded me of.
Yes.
He got 857,000.
Well, even Tucker's said a lot of this stuff too, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think that media has a very bad rap right now, and I think that you need voices of change, and I think that obviously that moment was that for a lot of people, and the views echo that.
Yeah, and I immediately thought back to Carlson, and the thing about him though is like I feel like he was there doing that for the whole time. You know what I mean? He was kind
What's
of
that?
pushing messages and pushing division, and like, you know, he comes out later and it's like, oh, you know, I didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And it's like, bro, you've been doing that for what, like a decade? Like, I don't know, but
Well, that's the place that we're all going to have to get to as a society is deciding like where is sincerity, right? Like, do we believe there's a possible reality where he's telling the complete and utter truth?
Mhm.
And is that possible? Because then in turn, it's like, okay, screw me once, shame on you, screw me twice, shame on me kind of thing. It's hard to say. People are going to have that choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't watch I don't really watch any of Tucker. I see the clips when they come out, but does he really do anything all that different than what he was doing before, just in his own way, you know, whatever he believes in?
That's a totally fair argument. Because he does talk to people on both sides a little bit more. And I like that's becoming more of a norm because that always should be. It's ridiculous that it wasn't that case. But for me, it comes down to like the sponsors they take on and then the ad reads of those sponsors. Right. And so if you go, and I'm not saying he's doing anything inherently wrong, but like when you read or you listen to his ad spots and actually listen to the words, it's like, okay, so then this is basically the evolution of what you say you left. So it's probably better, right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what's the narrative being pushed to pay the bills? And again, everyone's up to their own choice in how they see that, how they view that. I think it's at least trending in the right direction, hopefully.
I'm just now seeing the chat. I wasn't really paying too much attention, but
feel free to Asipa, feel free to remove people's ability to talk whenever.
Yeah, but
someone's looking for attention.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, super powerful moment here for me, even, I guess that's all I'll say. But because it has been very disheartening, and now it's starting to become a little bit more normal, which is what I don't like.
What's becoming more normal?
Sorry, yeah, like this activity around
like name calling.
The name calling, but even more than that, like the stonewall. There's like an argumentative technique that's being used, which is to like, and it's just ridiculous. It's every single day almost. It's like there's an argument being made. There's an ad hominem, for one, attacking the person. And then also this technique of like, you don't love your country, right? Turning you against the thing that, you know, anyone else could totally rally behind if you're against it. And it's like, brother, like, we're going to do that every single day. Like, dude, it's tiring, man. Because then I mean, now your words don't really mean anything. Whenever someone finally wakes up to the fact that this is what's going on every single day, then you're not saying anything anymore. And you're just like, you're an actor. And I guess it's always been that way. But it's like, dude, what is that bringing us? You know? So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that the internet allowed people with the ability to turn the world into a reality TV show, right? And that sprinkling into every layer of society, like think about the values of what a reality TV show has always been. Like the promise was always like pretty low vibration. Like if you can imagine media being junk food, it was that, right?
Mhm.
But then when everything becomes that, of course we feel the way that we do. How could we not?
Totally. Totally, man. Yeah. Because it's like, man, like there are real patriots. Someone putting it like there are real people who care.
Mhm.
And you're weaponizing that against them and turning people against people who would otherwise be allies. And not only just that, but it's like you've taken an entire philosophy and you've just completely ruined it. Like the things that he ran on, the things that he went in claiming that he wanted, like he's now taken that, even if he's doing some of those things, he's now taken that and he's made it to where it's like, how can you even, like you almost have to take the artist and the art and throw it all away. Because some of the art, some of the things that are actually being done are messed up too. And that being, for instance, I won't be able to get away from like taking over and hijacking the media. That's unforgivable. Because you ran on, not just you ran on, but this entire movement that you stand for stands on protection of speech.
Yeah. Convenient protection of speech.
Yeah. So anyways, I'll move on. Big piece here was Zuckerberg. Jimmy Dory, I don't know how to pronounce his name, points out that Mark Zuckerberg, the environmentalist, has an yacht that is 87 feet longer than a football field, and it burns
That's
over
crazy.
100 gallons of fuel per hour. It's a $300 million vessel, pretty big, pretty massive. But he basically just calling this guy out and all of the billionaire class for ever saying anything about
the environment.
Yeah. And I'll be honestly, you know, guys, as a boat person, this is a rather modest vessel for a man of his wealth.
That's modest?
Yeah, it's like $300 million vessel.
I guess relatively speaking.
You know, like he's like those boats that we were looking at in the F1 in Monaco, like some of them would like tower over this thing.
Mm.
You know.
So what's Cons? Is Cons bigger than that?
It's probably the exact same size, for instance. And he, you know, he's nowhere near Mark Zuckerberg.
No.
I'm forgetting the name of his boat right now for some reason. The Kismet, yeah, the Kismet versus the what's it called?
I don't think I'll ever be a boat guy, man.
Why is that?
Oh, I told you personally about all the things that I just think boats are like a massive scam.
I mean, a physical item as a scam is interesting.
Well, there's a reason for the saying that a boat owner has 2 happy days in their life: the day they buy it and the day they sell it. That doesn't just come from nowhere.
Yeah, that's super fair. So Khan's boat is 400 feet, and Mark Zuckerberg's is 387.
Smaller.
So
Khan's mogging him.
He's literally billionaire
yacht
mogging him. He's yacht mogging this guy at a fraction of the net worth. Yeah, no. By the way, Kismet means destiny or fate, and that's the name of the
of Zuck's
Khan's
one.
boat.
Oh,
No,
Khan.
yeah.
Got it.
So Khan said 15 billion. Mark is at 195 billion.
That's a fair question from Brian here, or a statement, I guess. Are they owning these yachts or do they lease them?
They usually buy them. I mean, but then they'll rent them out. They'll lease them back out though. Like Khan, his boat goes for $1 million a week.
So other people are using that thing?
Yeah. Because you gotta maintain it.
Fair.
Like you're paying ridiculous amounts to maintain. It's like 10% a year, right? I think it's the thing. So if you have a $300 million boat, you're paying $30 million a year to maintain the boat. Like you got to get some of that back.
Yeah, I'll just be coming on your boat, Keith.
For sure, man. We'll do cool stuff with it. We'll, like raise money other ways.
Cool.
Yeah. But anyways, because just think about that, man. It's an experience. Like, bring some kids on the boat. Like, let them
Definitely is. I hear you. I wouldn't say I'm sold, but I will join you on those experiences.
And by the way, I'm saying, promote conscious capitalism. Do a conscious capitalism retreat on the boat in Monaco. Give a bunch of scholarships away. Teach about business and entrepreneurship.
Cool. Can't wait for all that on Keith D's yacht.
So Amode Dario had some statements about why he left OpenAI. And so we gotta play this. This is spicy, and this came out just yesterday, I believe.
OpenAI has become Silicon Valley lore. What did you disagree on?
Look, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it very simply. There are many valid disagreements to be had on safety. We certainly had some of those disagreements with them, but people that alone is not sufficient to leave. When you feel that you can't trust someone, when you feel that their values are not what they say they are, when you feel that they're not honest, that makes it very hard to continue to work with a company, to continue to trust.
OpenAI has become Silicon Valley.
What's your 2 cents, Keith?
It's interesting. Ed Zitron was like, both of these guys are liars.
Well, that's where my head, again, obviously I'm going to over-index to where my skill set goes, but I was thinking of, you're taking on a market leader in ChatGPT. From an optics standpoint, you got to attack it, and then you attack its leader, right? And then if consensus is already that this guy is super weird, and you position yourself as the anti that, then that's a very helpful message to have. So whether it's true, whether it's not, it was going to be said regardless, right? Like, whether that's actually why they left or it's not, they need that message.
Totally. Yeah, man. So these guys are going to be going at it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm going to be making a video pretty soon on Instagram about, like, is AI just a massive psyop, and then compare it to other psyops throughout history and try to, because there's definitely a degree of this not being real, but it also, because the problem is everyone gets fixated on their specific angle, right? Like, I made a video on Ed covering it recently, and the comments are always, it's the same thing every time that we talk about Keith, right? As soon as someone hears the thing that they're looking for, they stop listening and they leave a comment. And then they make assumptions across everything else, or like they don't even listen. Like, this one person's like, Uber did the same thing. I'm like, I said that already. I was like, bro, watch the freaking video, man. And then, but like, because there's so many other angles, right? Because the AI enthusiasts will be like, this technology is groundbreaking, and it's like, I completely agree with you, but does that value accrue to the top ticket model providers? I don't think it does. In my opinion, I think that a lot of this value will get captured on more of the local level. And then that makes their business model very, very difficult unless you're selling to nation states, which it seems like that was the plan all along.
Right. Yep. Selling to the nation state. Speaking of that, this is pretty much exactly what's on the table. Trump makes a plan or outlines a concept at the very minimum, and Simon Dixon, a plan for the U.S. to have a stake in some of these companies, as well as allowing the American people to contribute and participate in that. Simon Dixon calls this out and compares this to some of what happened in 2008. But let's hear what he said, in particular, Donald Trump here.
When are you meeting with tech executives about the government taking stake in AI companies, and what could this partnership look like?
We're having a meeting with them. It's an amazing industry. It's bigger than any industry anyone's ever seen. We are leading China by a lot. And, whoever leads that is going to really lead the world to a large extent. That's how big it is. And I'm going to have meetings with the top 12 or 15 executives very shortly. And we're talking about giving back something to the public. And if we do that, the public will become very rich, the people in our country, because that's the kind of money we're talking about. And I think they'll do that, and I think it'll make it very popular.
AI stimulus checks.
Yeah, basically, right? AI stimmies, innovation dividends from John Deaton.
It'll be fascinating to see if money being put in people's hands changes the public perception. Like, what is the public's price?
Right. Yep. I don't think it'll take much.
I don't think so either. that's what we've been saying on this show like the whole time, where they're gonna have to pitch something like this. We've been saying this for literally months, right? It's the only, and I think crypto plays a role. I think that they might put some money in people's hands through like an AI stimmy thing. So, okay, you like AI, and where are young people going to put their money? I think a lot of them would put at least a percentage of it into the crypto market. You inflate the crap out of crypto. You then created money out of thin air, value out of thin air without printing more money. So we'll see.
So this isn't directly tied to it, but I saw this morning and I was like, yo, this is a fascinating thought. So in general, like we got the AI, the data centers, like energy intensive, blah, 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 messing up neighborhoods, using a lot of water. People don't like them. Cool. People also just generally not doing too great. Electricity costs are going up because of the AI thing, but also we're just not doing that good. Like people are poor, you know what I mean? And there needs to be some sort of an answer to that. So that's what you're saying. But then also on the energy piece, this guy, Chase Geyser, I've never heard of him before, but I saw this today.
0 Point Energy.
He said, look, the deep state needs alternative energy to power AI and is going to claim they got it from aliens to cover for the fact that they've been hiding the tech for years to protect the petrodollar. You're welcome.
Bro, that's good. That's right up my alley. I'm all over that. Have you ever dug deep into 0 Point Energy?
No.
I strongly recommend everyone go down that rabbit hole. And then also look into what happens to people when they create something that is energy efficient.
Then this is why I've not gone down the rabbit hole. I'm staying away from that one.
Well, you're not creating anything. You never would. It's for education and entertainment purposes only, Keith.
I'm like, look, I'm not even gonna look. I'm gonna turn my head this way.
Well, I think that was also brought to the forefront of the conversation. And again, this could all be on purpose. Where they wanted an off ramp too, right? Like he's saying, like you say this was always the plan, but like we only got it now because we got it from aliens and we didn't know what to do and da 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 da. Who knows?
No, but straight up though, man. I thought that was super, super powerful. Like, of course, that comes up right at this time.
And also, they had an alien press conference yesterday as well. I don't think we have that in the sheet, but David Grush or Grush, I don't know how to pronounce his name. The guy who knows him the best pronounces his name like that, but no one else pronounces it like Grush. So I don't know if maybe he's trolling him. I don't know. But yeah, he went out and said they had this thing with a few Congress people basically saying that not only is there's bases, there's crafts, there's biologic. We're priming, like Trump has the opportunity to be the president of disclosure or whatever. So who knows? We'll see.
Very, very interesting stuff. Yeah. So
Brian
here
says,
we are.
and I thought I was schizo. I'm assuming calling me schizo. I don't know. I just find all this stuff super fascinating, even if it's all just folklore. I find it super fun. And if you watch the Y Files, they talk a lot about that stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of scams amongst BS stuff too, for sure.
Big herd. So now the other piece that I have here, give me just a second, is the SpaceX IPO going down mañana. They're raising 75 billion. They're raising 75 billion. Like, this is just so wild to me, guys. Like, I don't think we think about this enough anymore, but like these numbers have gotten insane. They're not talking about a $75 billion valuation. They're going to raise $75 billion and be priced at 1.77 trillion. Apparently, there's over 70 billion in retail orders alone. Interesting. Retail gets an unusually high 20% allocation. And this dwarfs Saudi Aramco's previous record of the largest IPO. So it's going down tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. I guess I shouldn't say going down. It's happening. I don't know if it's going down or up, but it's happening.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict. I think that they could probably artificially pump it up to a degree, or maybe that happens naturally. Who freaking knows? But it's definitely being discussed everywhere. My mom called me and was like, "Should I be buying SpaceX?" And I'm like, "I don't give financial advice. I'd recommend watching this, and this."
Word. Yeah. So that's where we're at with that. We got some memes, some legit funny stuff going on.
Hit me with it.
Part of it about what's happening here. This guy says, Chris, this is the new world order here. No longer is it Fang, no longer is it the Mac 7, but we're talking about mangoes.
I love mangoes, man.
Mangoes are some of the best fruit in the world.
I definitely agree. I guess Meta is still super relevant because people, like older people, spend a lot of time on there. But I spend almost no. I guess Instagram. Yeah, what am I talking about? I spend time. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I just whenever I hear Meta, I always think of Facebook,
which is pretty funny because it's like that's why they changed it, bro, so that you wouldn't think of it as just Facebook.
They're both blue, man. What are you talking about? And Anthropic, I do use them. NVIDIA, I guess, not directly, but
by default.
Yeah, and then Google, of course, OpenAI. If any of them were to fall out of that list, I think OpenAI's got a shot to go.
You think SpaceX stays?
Yeah.
Dang.
I do. Doesn't necessarily. I just think there's too many rigged players in that thing.
Yeah, Brian, we'll do some of them. Some of them were out of hand, but we will look at some of the retweets on this one. So Bob Saget said, "I fix it for you." He put
Microsoft
the M as Microsoft.
Interesting.
And then Chris said, "Microsoft is not in the AI race." People liked that a lot. I think there was one other one that I saw. This guy said bags, and I like that a lot. He threw Bitcoin in there.
Nice.
I was like,
and
hey,
Amazon.
Man. Yeah, and Amazon is in there. Then I saw one other good one that I thought was pretty solid. This guy, Stock Twits.
I'm poor. That's great.
Shout out to Stock Twits with the banger. Underappreciated banger, honestly. I don't understand. Yep.
Cool.
Some other stuff. We had our Anthropic overlords deciding which prompts the peasants are allowed to use.
Did you hear the story that led to that?
No, actually, I did not.
So basically, I forget the exact specifics, so please, in the comments, give me the clarity. But I believe that they had said that they'll dictate what the model can and can't be fed, or if they feel like the prompt could make it, I don't know, was more dumb or whatever it was, but they wouldn't allow it to go through.
Like if the prompt made the model more dumb because of what it's being trained on?
I'm not entirely sure the specifics, but that was essentially it. It was like you won't be able to just do whatever kind of thing.
Interesting.
So give me the specifics in the comments. But I saw a tweet explaining it a little bit.
Word. This guy said, Anthropic release, when they put Fable 5 out into the world, this is what happens. Cinder block into the dryer and
just breaking everything.
Goes pretty crazy. And I guess this was a response to Claude Fable 5 generating a mechanically accurate Swiss lever watch animation in 3JS from a single prompt. Not super familiar with what that really means, to be honest.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating though how rapidly these models progressing is changing the definition of jobs. Right? Like there's so many jobs that still exists, but the definition and scope of what the job is dramatically changing. Like let's say just that of designer. Like there was a huge amount of people that were thumbnail designers and that was like their whole profession. Now with how good the image gen models are, if you're not a strategist and a designer, you're gonna lose the job.
Oh one hits a little close to home, doesn't it?
Well, of course, I run an agency where we do that, right? But at the end of the day, that's how all jobs are going to go. If it is much like you said, if it's a task, it's going to take the task, right? So what? But you also have to think about what was it, right? So if you were just a designer and you couldn't come up with your own idea that worked, like, is that designing? Yes, you use the software and you bring who had the idea and you make it happen, but that's not really your art.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so now it broadens the scope where a designer also has to be a strategist. Like, you have to know what needs to be made and why it needs to be made. Because if I can explain what it was and that was really the end outcome I was just trying to get to, then now I can just go do it myself.
Totally.
And also, like, people who are mad about that, like, the software was making it, you were putting it in the places to do it. Now you can just describe it if you know what that is, that you can say, do this, make this change. So it's definitely changing things a lot. It'll be interesting to see how we get people trained up.
Totally. Next memes here. A couple of people talking about the what's going on with this IPO and what this means for people. So the cafeteria lady at SpaceX, realizing she became a millionaire after 10 years of selling coffee to Elon Musk. And then this other one is a classic meme in the space, a little bit messed up, but funny nonetheless. I'll give it to him. This is him and the SpaceX lunch lady when she becomes a millionaire after the IPO.
True love.
Next, this was pretty good. I thought it was interesting. Someone puts up some AI ads, or some tech ads, excuse me, in San Francisco that are completely fake. And Eli, or maybe, said, would anyone even notice this? It's pretty interesting. What if Texas was upside down?
Upside down Texas, yeah. That's so good.
What if forks were spoons? What if the Rizzler was purple? You pay us, we pay you. Wire flow. They should definitely have had QR codes on these. Like, why wouldn't they do that and then actually track?
Yeah.
Like, which ones did good?
Phosphate has a comment here that's cool. So AI ads drop CTR by 40 to 70%. Is that, do you mean like ads for AI products, or like the creative was made by AI? I'd be curious to know what you mean. And I think that'll be the case, but the models are pretty dang close to being indistinguishable from real life too. Like, I don't know how many people will continue to be able to notice. So unless they put laws in place where you legally have to disclose that. So I don't know. And then Brian has a point on the cloud stuff. I'm a cloud power user, and let me tell you something. After that Fable dropped, even Opus became borderline useless. It flags just about everything and refuses to do it.
Interesting.
Interesting.
That's so wild, man. Oof.
So I think more and more people are gonna be pushed to local models, man.
Gonna have to localize the model. Interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that actually looks. So a couple of LA versus San Francisco. LA, have your agent talk to my agent. Versus in San Francisco, have your agent talk to my agent.
Love that.
For me, it took a little bit, but in LA, you've got,
you're an actor or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then in San Fran, you got an AI agent.
Exactly. Which makes this other one a little bit easier to understand, which I think we've seen this before. As has been said before, dating a model can mean one of two very different things depending on where you live in California.
It's super fascinating.
But yep, those are my memes for the day.
Love it. Love it.
So that means we got community.
Hit me with it.
Awesome. So Tuesday we had an episode with John Deaton that got cut short. So we did the two different halves separately. Some of you guys were surprised to see that, but yeah, we had a dope interview with John Deaton. He's currently actually running for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts, and was someone who led essentially like a lawsuit against the SEC, or basically like an interjection into the Ripple lawsuit representing XRP holders.
If he has good marketing help around him, he will become very, very popular.
Heard, man. Yeah, he's made this attempt before, but I think he mentioned this time why it's a little bit different. It was more of a chance this time. I was watching Russell Brunson. I sent you that one episode here. He was talking about like how politicians will put the thing in the yard, and it says like their last name and the year that they're running, and like nothing about what they stand for. And I thought that was pretty astute observation. It's like it's a very easy way to like.
Do you think that's maybe because
something.
it's more about the association to the person who owns the house than anything else?
It could be. It could be. You know, because that stuff's interesting, right? Because it is that, right? It's like, hey, I live here, I support this person, you know me, but also just so many people that might pass by that don't know who you are.
Totally. They should all put barcodes on that lead to a video.
Well, if you're driving by, and that's
Well, if they're walking by,
that's wild.
Yeah. Okay. Sure, not if you're driving, but I think if they're in a residential neighborhood, I feel like a lot of people would walk by eventually.
No, fair enough, man. You could definitely do some stuff.
But I agree, it's very outdated just having the name.
Yep. So, yep, just some love in the comments for him. Honestly, you guys seem to like it. Yeah, nothing particular here, but just lots of support for John. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and it was cut short because of the tech stuff. That's why we had to split it in two, and we would have gone on longer with him, but the tech was not teching.
It was not. And so we did a second half about basically the AI hysteria. We did go in quite a bit about that, and the Rebel was like, what? 2 vids in one day, or am I tripping? Great job today, y'all.
You're not tripping. We had to deal with the cards we were dealt.
Totally. And then, oh yeah, we got to address Lawrence Israel here, but Michelle Grace Hunder, shout out to you. Appreciate you as always. She said, great discussion, guys. Side note, I watched another YouTuber that increased the volume when Trump got up from the chair in the interview, and it sounded like he crapped himself. Make of that what you will. That's funny. It's from the part where he stormed off the interview. So maybe that's what it was all about, I guess. He just needed to poop.
Yeah, he ended it because he actually just had to use the bathroom.
That's funny. Yeah, so Lawrence Israel, let's talk about this, brother. He said, Shalom, another great episode. I love the 2 shows today. He says, P.S. Ben, my brother, black man, do not like being called Mr., Sir, or Buddy. LOL, I don't know. It must be some type of an ancient trauma tied to it, but it makes our skin crawl, and we still may smile it away. So, Mr. Lawrence Israel, we had a little bit of discussion about some of this stuff because, you know, I think also this comes up in the comment section a little bit as well in general. You know, you put some LOLs in here, so I'm imagining, you know, it's a more lighthearted discussion to it. But I don't know, where do I start with this one? It's
that's up to you, man.
I think the buddy thing. I said, all right, fair. But I don't think that that's a black thing. I think that's 100% everybody, right? It's a meme at this point. Like, if you want to offend somebody, if somebody starts calling you buddy, you know, then that means, you know, they're sirring you, or they're sunning you, right? But I don't think I've ever had a moment in my life where someone calling me Mr. or Sir was in any way disturbing to me, even though it could have, like an age thing. I could be like, oh, don't call me sir, I'm not that old. But no, I've never felt that way. See it as a sign of respect. I grew up in the South. I think that's kind of how we use it, at least. But yeah, I've never had that. And then also, this idea of like, oof. Yeah, like I have no problem with him calling me Mr. or Sir. Anybody saying that. I don't know when he said that or if Ben said that or whatever, but yeah, I don't see it. In general, too, like sometimes, guys, there's a little bit of some sentiment around some of this where it's like, Ben, not being black and like him having to potentially like be held to some sort of a different standard in the way that discussions are being had. And yeah, like I've seen some comments like white boy this before, white boy that. And it's like, that's pretty inappropriate. And I think as Black Americans, especially, there's like this, this like misunderstanding that like nothing that you do could possibly be racist. And I want to check that because I see it all the time. And, how would it feel if people came in the chat and we're talking about black boy this, black boy that?
It has happened once or twice. But I get what you're saying completely.
It's like, that would not be cool. It'd be a huge problem. It'd be like, kick this guy out. Like, he can't be saying that, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm not saying that this comment also is directly related to that.
No, not at all.
But I'm just trying to address all of that stuff because we got a chance here to talk about Black men, this, Black men, that. Also, like, I'm Black. If I had a problem, I'd say something,
And I would just seek to understand why it was offensive. And then if I would stop on, but I would also want to understand. And then how are you now? I had a comment that echoed my entire approach to all of this. So like, I think changing the way you speak based off someone's skin color or ethnic background is more disrespectful than just talking the way you naturally talk. So like, I talk to Keith like I would talk to any of my friends, right? Like, so that's just words that I use in my vocabulary, sir, buddy. Like, I think people get far too offended over words, like, especially like if it's not meant to be hurtful. I think people look for malicious intent when it's even when it's not there. So yeah, it's never been my intention to piss anyone off.
Totally. And yeah, how are you now? It's a great point, right? Because I'm like, I don't know. I was having some conversations about some of this stuff too last night because it's just like we definitely want to be like, we got to use language. You know what I'm saying? Like, language has definitions, uses, and if we distort the meanings of things just because for whatever, like, it gets hard to communicate, it legitimately just becomes impossible to communicate. You know what I mean?
And that seems like it's partially by design, right? Keep everyone fighting and make it impossible to discuss things amongst different groups. And then in turn, progress doesn't get made across the board.
Totally.
Or like the more rules you add to a conversation, the less conversations happen.
Facts.
Right. And I also think that like Jeff Booth's whole thing, like proof of work in terms of, does this person deserve the benefit of this doubt in this scenario? Right? Like maybe you're assigning the malice to it, right? Because of previous things that you're coming with. Maybe the person who said it isn't. And can you go source that? Right? I'm not saying there's a lot of people who are freaking racist, and I think that they should be educated, held accountable for that type thing. I have no tolerance for like hateful ignorance, right? I have tolerance for ignorance, but nothing hateful.
Totally. When I was in Spain a couple years ago, it was crazy because like Spain is just like, there's just not a lot of Black people out there. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
like, there's just not, like, especially if you're in the rural areas. Obviously, if you're in a big city, it's not that bad.
What do people look like there? Just like tanned?
Just, like
tanned white people?
Yeah. So there was this moment where we had to take a car to like get to another part of the country, and you like, there's like an app where you can like, take a car for like road trips that are going farther places. And so we did that both on the way to this place that we went
Mhm.
and on the way back. There was comments that were being made about my skin color and stuff, but it was very like innocent kinds of things. You know, it was just like clearly you just, you know, you haven't been around a lot of people who are black, and so you've got these things that you'll say.
What were they
and-
doing and saying?
So on the way to the place, it was even like it wasn't even anything like racist that was said. He just was like, basically he was using a word in Spanish. It's called moreno.
Okay.
And like he was using this word, and he was trying to make sure that he didn't feel like I was going to be offended by him using that word.
Mm.
And I'm like, no, like, are you using it in an offensive way? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so no problem. And then on the way back, this one was a little bit less, you know, like acceptable. But it was like, it was so interesting too, because this was a cultural moment where it was like, dude was like an ex-cop for one.
In Spain?
Ex-military. Yeah, in Spain. And so, but I'm like, but that mentality can still translate, right? So let me tell you what he said. He was like something about like, oh, you're fit, like, you know, but yeah, like black people are super fit. Something like that, something of that nature, and just keeps going, you know, like whatever. And once again, like, there's nothing inherently wrong with what he was trying to do or what he was trying to say, but it was just like, culture, like, why would you like, you don't say stuff like that really normally. It's just like, why would you even say that really? If you thought that, or if there was some data behind what you were saying, it might be true.
Mhm.
But like, it was just a weird moment of like, you don't have to say that, brother. But
I know a lot of really in shape black people, but I also know a lot of black people that are very much not.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was just like you know, this is a cultural thing. Like, he doesn't know that he shouldn't say that, I guess,
Mhm.
or at least like if he's gonna say it, like, say it in a way that make sure you're hedging yourself to where you say it properly.
Mhm.
But nah. So yes, exactly, guys. Like, let's just let's love and respect each other, and make sure that even if it might seem like that's in an innocent way to address someone, because it's not offensive in your household or in wherever you're at or wherever you grew up, like, you know, just be thoughtful. Like, it's always a matter of empathy. Like someone said, like, just flip it around. How would that feel?
Totally. 100%. Phosphate asking the question, do you guys have a guest wish list? We made our dream guest list at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And we've gotten a few of them on, but we definitely hope to get more on in the future. And if there's ever people that you guys want, we have a doc where we try to get people on the show. So we do keep track of the names that you share. We add that to that, and we do try to go after them. And the bigger this show grows, the easier that becomes to get them on. So all of the buttons being clicked in terms of subscriptions, likes, all that stuff is a great free way to help us get more guests on. And also, don't be shy about saying if there's someone you want. We do take that into consideration every time, and as long as it makes sense, then we'll do that. But there was, I think they also had one other thing too, and some industries you'd like guests from. I think I definitely want to have more AI people on here too, because it's such a front-facing conversation right now. Like, I'd love to have Ed on at some point. I think our job needs to be having on bulls and bears from like everything.
Yes.
Right. Like, we already had some bulls, some AI bulls on here, and that led to some people getting pissed. Having Peter on, but it's not because I haven't wanted to have the opposite. I would like that more, even for my own ability to understand, but sourcing people can be hard, right? At times, I think there's gonna be a lot more people that come out openly about hating AI or not the message associated with it. So that'll probably become easier. But Ed's one of the first names where he's making his brand around this. There wasn't that many people, right? And so that's becoming more and more of a thing. There's a few guys that come to mind, and we've also mentioned Buddy from the Internet of Bugs. I use Buddy. I guess it's offensive. Fuck. The guy from Internet of Bugs, who's super cool. I love his temperament. He's super smart, and I brought him up a bunch of times in hopes of getting him on, but we've not been successful in that. How about you? Any specific fields you want on, Keith?
Nah, man. I mean, maybe in the music stuff. Yeah, I'll definitely try to think more about that.
That'd be super cool.
Django was a sick guest.
We could have Django on again at any point, I'm sure.
That's
If there's
true.
something big that pops off in culture,
Yeah.
we should definitely have him back on.
We should have had him for the Iceman.
Yeah, we should have for sure. And he's getting really tapped in. Super proud of everything he's doing, man. He's crushing it.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Luke Groman was one of the guys that I had on my list. I'm struggling to find it right now, but he's one of the guys. Raul Powell would be sick to have on. We got to attract some of his haters. We got to get him to pull up to our show.
Yeah, 100%. I would love to have him on. He's one of the ones that I thought of when we started the show that I'd love to have him on. And I'm sure he'll start doing a lot more when the prices are up. Right? He'll do
for sure.
a lap there. And Zed MEF said Ben can't stop the buddying, and I'm like, yeah. At least you know I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about it pretty early on in chatting with each other, and yeah, no, this is ingrained.
It's just something, especially growing up in the sports environment in Canada. Buddy was like a thing. What's up, buddy? That's a big thing here, like for hockey, especially.
Word.
Yeah.
Word, man. Yeah, I mean, you guys,
well,
buddy.
Here, even in Canada, if a lot of my friends would describe their friend as my buddy, like, oh, my buddy does this.
Word.
My buddy does that. Oh, my buddy, he's the guy who does this. That's how they would prelude the discussion.
I feel like that's the only acceptable use of buddy.
People get so angry over everything. But Brian said you guys should have a community highlights section. I'm sure some people in the community are building great things.
True.
So yeah, we definitely highlight things that are being built. I think that'll be easier to do. Maybe we make that one of the channels in Discord or whatever. Totally. And then there's an opportunity for that. And then also through No Dice, our app. If you get through all the way to the end of No Dice, you have the opportunity to come on a podcast with Keith and I to discuss whatever it is that you were doing during that time. And so if you were building something, then feel free to talk about that if you want.
Super true. Yeah, that's a really good way to, like, in general, right? If you're doing No Dice, you can be talking about what you're working on as you're doing No Dice, and that 100% comes something that we're reposting, we're sharing.
Totally.
And that, I mean, like, there can be real value to that if you're doing cool stuff.
Totally. Yes. It's a no-brainer. That could be a reason why you're locking in. You're doing the challenge to improve your life and improve your ability to achieve the things that you're trying to do. So yeah, that's a great idea. I think the Discord's a place for that. And I think No Dice is a natural place for that, where the community can rally behind each other. And also you'll get more and more engagement through doing that as well, probably.
Speaking on it, I'm on day 9 today.
You're still rocking. Let's go.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna beat you, man.
I don't know. You definitely could, but
I'm gonna get an award. I'm gonna get something for it. I'm gonna get some sort of an award. I'm gonna crown myself.
All right, don't cheat on me now, though.
I won't cheat. I won't cheat. I'm a non-cheater.
Pull your tasks, bro.
I'm gonna pull my tasks. You guys ready for this?
Is bro allowed? What we got?
Bro's allowed. So I got an easier set today.
That's reference to the pod.
What was the reference to the pod?
I'm saying that little pop-up was explaining what we just explained as well. But show us your challenges.
True. So I've got exercise, no gambling, done. Breath work, read.
Nice.
And I do have to compliment 5 strangers. Oh, frick.
Dude, you're in New York. You can go outside for 30 seconds.
I was going to say, like, this does bring me to a point. So this is my second time ever in New York. I don't care what anyone says. And I'm a little bit jaded because I'm here for the Knicks finals. But, like, this city has so much of a community to it. Like, honestly, I grew up in the South, and I don't think that there's community like this.
There's the unified pride of being a New Yorker.
100%. That's on display, especially with the Knicks things going on. But the last time I was here, I felt the same way. I was like, you can just talk to people here, and it's not weird.
Yes.
And I just think that that's so powerful.
That's not really a thing in Toronto, man. Like, you saw it when you were here. When you talk to people, they're like, and like, it doesn't matter. Right? Every day I experience that. When I try to talk to someone who doesn't know me, they're like, What do I do?
Totally, man. Like, it's just such an interesting place for that. Like, yeah, it's a big city, but it's once again, it's yeah, people are doing stuff to the but it's not weird to just
Mhm.
say what's up to someone who like is your age,
Mhm.
like in the same, like it's like you're in a neighborhood. It's like you're in a college almost. Is how I felt when I first came here.
Well, that's part of the like in the fabric of what makes someone a New Yorker. That is part of it,
Mm.
right? And so it's helpful to have that unifying piece of we're all this, but then also the fact that one of their self-identified attributes is basically being outgoing. That's very
Totally.
helpful for developing of the community, right?
Totally.
Whereas that we have the opposite problem here in Toronto. Like people don't want to talk to anyone unless they already know them, and it's like, how do you meet people then? Why are you in this big city to only talk to the same 3 people? It doesn't make much sense to me, but that's the way she goes.
I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this in the comments because this turned into a little bit of a debate last night with one of my friends who's also from the South.
And he was saying the opposite of you?
Yeah, he's just a contrarian. Like if you say
Got
something,
it.
he's gonna
Got
he's
it, got it.
gonna
Oh, I
counter
know
you.
some of those.
So he was doing that, but I'm like, bro, I don't know. Like literally last night was just rapping to people, like having deep conversations with some random guy who's Albanian from Queens,
Cool.
talking about MMA fighting and like going to Thailand and like all this stuff. And it's just like, bro, like that's just normal here. It's just how it felt. But anyways, yep.
No, New York's cool. It's just it's a lot. Like if you're not ready for it, it can be overwhelming at times. I'm also sure it depends on where you are in the city too.
Yeah, I mean, last night was crazy. Like,
yeah.
So this is wild. I'm not trying to dampen anyone's mood, but like part of the night was we're waiting to get a pizza. We're all just outside having different conversations with different people. And then we notice these people across the street that are like looking up at a building.
Okay.
And I noticed it a minute before anyone else did, but I was like, I don't know, it's a bird. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. But there's clearly looking at something up in the sky. And eventually everyone else catches on around the block. Police, fire trucks lining up everywhere. And there's a guy who's up on the building.
Like hanging from it?
Hanging off the building.
Bro. Was he a Spurs fan?
Okay, so the crazy, most ironic thing about this was that it took like an hour for them to get him off. But that happened right after the game.
They were waiting for the game to be over.
I'm like, what is going on? So anyways.
He's okay though.
He's fine. He's fine. That was all resolved. But like that was crazy because you got 12 fire trucks, people outside, like basically gathering to like honestly like wish this dude well was another thing. Like I'm like, yo, this is awesome in a way. Like no one wants anything bad to happen to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was the part of New York that I'm in. I don't know. You know what I mean? To where it wasn't more ugly than that. But I was just like, man, this is crazy. Like there's just so much going on and it's community, people are happy, or at least like not just happy, but just like people are people.
Yeah. It's fascinating because I had an experience. I was there last year, and even in the thick of it, like in Times Square, I saw the same people there coming onto the road that were obviously locals and like raising their kids in the middle of like Times Square. I was like the park for them was Times Square. I'm like, this is wild. But obviously if that's all they know, then that's all you know, right? Most people don't leave their home. And so if that was their home they grew up in, then in turn that remains that way, right?
Facts, bro. The first time I came here, I totally was thinking about that. I'm like, yo, like people pushing baby strollers through the middle of Brooklyn or whatever in Manhattan. I'm like, yo, like that's kind of crazy. Like, would it make sense to raise a kid here? Like, that's crazy.
I'm sure if not given choice, but maybe that's all they've seen.
Totally, man. And I'm like, I guess in some ways, like that kid's gonna grow up quick. You know what I mean? Like, put that kid on the subway, they'll figure it out. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's definitely you'd be rich in life experience growing up in New York. I'm sure a mix of good and bad, and so I think it'll all be about how you deal with those.
Yep. So yeah, and so Drinkwater said, I hate back chatting, just say it to my face, mate. So that was the thing that one of my boys and us were talking about. He's from Connecticut. He was like, in the South, people are nice to your face, but underneath, are they really all that nice? But here, people or whatever to your face, but underneath, they want you to be well. Like no one wants anything bad to happen to you. You know, like if something bad's happened, people will come and say, like, help you, you know. And in the South, you still get that, don't get me wrong. But it's still just like that kind of like flip-flopping of like, I might not be all nice in your face, but like, bro, I'm not gonna let you get hit by a car, you know.
Yeah, there's more transparency. What you see is what you get, kind of thing. That's another point of pride for New Yorkers, which I can resonate with. I do think it saves time.
I love it. I love it. Growing up in the South, dude, I love it. I'm like, please be real with me.
Yeah, a lot of people are so full of shit, and that's definitely present in where I live too.
But yep, I could chat about that forever, but I won't. I appreciate you guys for sticking around. We have a highlights channel that we would love for you guys to subscribe to. You can find the link to the highlights channel in the description of this video. You'll get the highlights from this conversation and many others that we have with our guests. And you can also use those to share this show with your friends and family.
Totally. And we are 178 subscribers away from reaching the arbitrary threshold set by YouTube to be monetized. So any bit of support goes a very long way. It's free to you, means the world to us.
Absolutely. So we appreciate that greatly. So the thing I was gonna say, join us for No Dice 45. We're getting after it. Ben and I are competing. You know, you guys can join in. I'm sure some of you will catch us if we end up slipping up at any point in time. So come and join us. We're gonna continue to highlight what you guys are doing on our pages when you guys are participating and posting. And let's get after it together. It's an opportunity to make your life better. It's an opportunity to reclaim your attention, reclaim your time, reclaim agency over your life. If you're feeling like you just need a win right now,
go make it happen.
Download No Dice 45 and join us.
Yeah, anyone can benefit from it. And we're doing it every single day. So it's a great way to get everyone connected because you can search the hashtag. People are starting to post. That'll become more and more prevalent with the hashtag No Dice 45 for the challenge. And I'm super excited to see what kind of creativity gets spurred from people going through the challenge and documenting it and all that stuff. So very excited for that. And we're already actively working in on new features based on feedback and stuff. So even the app that you download today, which is definitely in a decent state, I think it's solid. It'll keep getting better and better and better. And we're taking all of your feedback and we take it very seriously as well.
100%. Fantastic, folks.
Cool. Well, thank y'all. Appreciate you, Thomas. Appreciate you, What a Sale. Y'all are always mainstays in the chat, and we appreciate every single one of you. Without y'all, there's no show. So we're not ignorant to that. So we appreciate you so much. You make doing this a lot more fun, a lot more enjoyable, and it makes me excited to hop on here every Tuesday and Thursday with y'all. So we definitely appreciate you guys for the support. And there's an example here today, right, where things weren't going the way that is the memes and markets way, and you guys called that out. So I'm proud of y'all for doing that, and we're definitely going to do everything that we can to maintain that as well. And so we appreciate your guys' contributions in facilitating that. So thank you so much for all y'all do. What's that? Did you watch an ad or something?
Basically.
Cool.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
We appreciate all of you. Yeah, Derek, obviously we appreciate all you. Lucas, Mary, you're a legend and we appreciate you. And yes, What a Sale is the best day of our lives. It's Boss Fit. You're always a legend in the chat. Yeah, I would retweet this, Lucas. I definitely love this community, and that's something that's rare on the internet. So we definitely appreciate y'all.
Totally.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We will see all of you guys on Tuesday. Be the light that you want to see, and I'll throw it over to Keith.
Make it the best day of your life, folks.
That's it. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.